Part 37. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 362. When Yilin took blacksmith Ge Lang back to the team's temporary base, Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, and Li Erpang tightened their expressions, stood up at the same time, and tightened their grip on their weapons. Perhaps it was because blacksmith Ge Lang's face had such a story to tell, or maybe it was his shirtless appearance with a big hammer on his back, which was so ominous that they were subconsciously wary. The dog happily circled around blacksmith Ge Lang, swung its tail, put fighting claws on its paws as if offering treasures, and showed a dog-licking smile to blacksmith Ge Lang. Blacksmith Ge Lang remained silent. He just squatted down and rubbed Wang Tiandi's head a few times. Emperor Wang Tian held out his paw and smiled even more wildly. After Li Erpang and the other three were alert for a moment, they quickly remembered the identity of the sledgehammer guy. This is obviously the blacksmith uncle from Novice Village. Why are you here? The NPC actually left the city? Later, I will build you a new pair of claws. Blacksmith Ge Lang's hard face had a rare softness, and he said this to Guzi. The dog heard this. The smile is completely abnormal. This is a real dog. Li Erpang, Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, and Yilin completely understood the reason why Emperor Wang Tian smiled like this. This is my dog. Yilin coughed twice and reminded. Ningyu. Li Erpang. Xiao Chuer. Our Ranos. 2 minutes later. Under the strange looks of his teammates, Yilin explained the origin of blacksmith Galang in the simplest terms. Of course, Yilin decisively omitted the part about recasting the Excalibur. Yilin doesn't want the existence of Excalibur to be exposed yet. Forming a team is really troublesome. Yilin's current direction of adding points is all towards the assassination route in the Act game, which is placed in the turn-based mechanism. Instead, she is tied up and can only silently follow the team to earn soy sauce and gain experience. Blacksmith Ge Lang didn't seem to care about how Yilin and others discussed. He sat silently by the campfire, with his head lowered, and from time to time he would raise the seemingly endless bottle of wine and pour a sip of spicy liquor into his mouth, his face full of stories. The dog still loyally acts as a licking dog. In order to allow blacksmith Ge Lang to build a new pair of paws for it, it flicks its tail in front of blacksmith Ge Lang from time to time to show off its presence. While blacksmith Ge Lang was showing off and Wang Tiandi was acting like a licker, the other four people squatted aside, forming a circle and whispering. What the hell? You actually tricked all the NPCs in the city? How awesome! Awesome, awesome. Ning cupped his hand with his right hand. Yilin waved her hand. Now is not the time to talk about this. He then excerpted part of the brief conversation he had with Pope Digi after killing the priest in the chapel. The others listened, looking at each other, speechless for a moment. In the end, Li Erpang couldn't hold it back and broke the awkward atmosphere of whoever speaks first has a lower IQ. Ah, this? Wait a minute, you said that you are heading west all the way? Can he believe it? That guy should be a player, right? Players say dirty things during PK fatty, I never believe a single punctuation mark. Just pure talk. Xiao Chuer stared and retorted, you call those bombers player PK? PK, the abbreviation of player kill, also means kill player. Although the opponent's use of such a large-scale killing weapon is somewhat ungrateful, in a superficial sense, the opponent's behavior can really be called its PK. Xiao Chuer was immediately speechless. But there is no to say. Yilin ignored the little fat man. He looked at Ningyu, does it matter whether you believe it or not? Ningyu frowned. Suddenly, he patted his thigh and opened his brows, wonderful. You are indeed worthy of being, Captain. Li Erpang raised his hand, ahem, I have something to say about the tentative position of Captain. Xiao Chuer gave Li Erpang a hard look, pig, fat teammate, don't interrupt yet, Listen to what they have to say. Xiao Chuer couldn't keep her mouth shut for a moment and almost said the words pig teammate out of her heart. Fortunately, Li Erpang didn't hear clearly, otherwise it wouldn't matter if the other party was a beauty or not, he would have said it in a hurry. Ningyu continued, the situation is obvious now. Li. That player has entered the upper echelons of the Holy See forces through some means. In order to deal with us, he directly used a large-scale murder weapon to kill us. To deal with such a big, the only killing weapon is a powerful killing weapon of equal power. Suppose that the power of the Holy See is actually equivalent to the existence of a villain force in the game world. Then for the sake of game balance, there must be a force that can compete with it. After all, this is a game world, and we can use our strength to fight against it. It is also fine. I wonder if you have unlocked the reputation panel. Like many online games, many forces in this game have reputation value settings. I think as long as you brush up enough reputation levels, you should be able to unlock many new ones. Function. Using NPC forces to use a big killer weapon should be one of them. So. Ningyu moistened his throat and concluded, no matter which force you are trying to gain the reputation of, it will take a certain amount of time. What we lack most now is time. Any strategy that can delay time is useless to us. It's all beneficial and harmless. On the surface, Brother Yilin just said something sexy, and the other party obviously didn't believe it. But this sentence planted a seed of doubt in the other party's heart. What if it is true? What if we are really going all the way west? Li Erpang was dumbfounded, feeling that these battles of wits and courage were not suitable for him. Wait a minute, you've been talking for a long time, what should we do next? Xiao Chuer suddenly stood up and said softly, run quickly. Li Erpang. Several people were getting ready to leave. Blacksmith Ge Lang also silently hung the wine flask on his waist. It seemed that he was determined to follow Yilin and the others. Although it is a bit weird to escape with a functional NPC in the city. But when they thought that this was a game world, a few people felt that it was not so outrageous. In the game, everything is possible. Li Erpang was in a hurry, preparing to put out the bonfire. Wait a minute, I have a talent skill that might come in handy. Ningyu looked at the blazing bonfire and said slowly. 3 hours later. The sun was blazing. Outside the town of Rab. 14 black aerostats, vast and mighty, the black steam produced by the burning boilers, covering the sky and the sun, and the sound was extremely terrifying, flying from the other side. These 14 huge black aerostats do not have any identity flags or symbols on the boats, making it difficult to figure out the origins of these 14 mysterious aerostats. An alarm sounded over Lebu town. All the innocent civilians, reminded by the alarm, panicked and trembled. They closed their doors and no one dared to wander on the streets. The sparse guards in Lebu town were all ready to go. After discovering these 14 uninvited aerostats, they quickly entered a fighting state under the mayor's order and strictly guarded the city gates and walls. But although every guard looked menacing, their slightly trembling weapons betrayed their truest thoughts. On the deck of the main boat. Your Majesty the Pope, shall we? High Priest Gil looked respectful and stood beside Pope Digi, feeling uneasy. These 14 ships are black ships without any identification. Although they managed to deal with the aftermath of Izada port, they still placed the sins of destroying the city on the heads of those devils. But if people from this trip see people from their Holy See landing from the black ship, then the Holy See's reputation in the world will plummet. The extraordinarily handsome Pope Digi had a calm face at the moment. He was sitting on a luxurious crystal throne in the most elegant posture. Behind him stood several young nuns, working diligently to divide the work. Some fans fan the Pope, some squeeze the Pope's shoulders, and some peel red and pink grapes for the Pope. Pope Digi's face was as dark as water, and he was lost in thought. Suddenly, someone came to report. Reporting to His Majesty the Pope, outside the town of Lisieux, in the northeast direction, 10 cloud miles away, a bonfire was found. There was someone beside the bonfire. What? So arrogant. The young, handsome, and pretentious Pope de Ge suddenly sat up straight and his eyes widened after hearing this. Is this why you lied to me and said you were heading west? Naive, so naive. Do you think I really believed your ghost and went straight to the west to catch up with you and take a look at Lisieux town? Besides Novice Village, where else can you go? Ha 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 ha. Seeing that Pope Dege's expression was getting worse and worse, High Priest Gil couldn't help but remind him, His Majesty the Pope, then we get down. Pope de Ge sneered and waved his hand, go down and surround them all. Remember, surround them little by little, slowly, don't be overwhelmed all at once. And, oh, by the way, round let's make it right, you guys, come in batches, give them a try first. Listen to this Pope's order, attack with all the troops. Each of the well-equipped Holy See troops skillfully descended from the ladder, quickly, neatly and methodically, which shows that they are very professional. 1 minute later, the professional Holy See army, following the instructions of Pope de Ge, formed a small team of 5 and attacked from all sides. But the strange thing is that the 4 people, 1 dog, and 5 figures beside the bonfire seemed completely unaware of the movement around them. They seemed to have given up resistance, lowered their heads, sadly, and warmed themselves by the fire in silence. This level is too easy to win. Pope de Ge sat down again, and a well-behaved nun beside him handed over a crystal-clear glass. There was high-grade sparkling wine swaying slightly in it, and the colorful light reflected in the sunlight. Yeah, sweet. You guys step back. After all the nuns retreated obediently, Pope de Ge was alone, stroking the flask in his arms. Well, the fruits of victory still have to be shared alone, it tastes better. In the flask, there was a lump of black gas, looming and appearing, scattering and gathering. It seems it's not your turn to appear. Li Chang'e lowered his voice and spoke softly, as if talking to himself. The black air in the bottle was silent for a moment. Suddenly, the disembodied black air in the bottle let out a hoarse, dry laugh. Ja, really? Pope de Ge ignored the black laughter. He smiled slightly and raised his cup to the sun. Respect, damn God. Ha ha. Do you believe there is a God? I have to believe it even if I don't believe it. Drink it all in one gulp. And right now. The panicked voices of the soldiers came from the communication crystal. His Majesty the Pope. These are dummies, dummies. They are dirt. These are dummies made of dirt. Puff. Pope Dej just drank a mouthful of sparkling wine, and he spit out every drop. The angry Pope snapped again, causing blood to flow from his teeth. At the same time, west of Rabtown. This is an unknown area on the map, commonly known as the Mist Zone. Of course, this is just a foggy area for players. Blacksmith Ge Lang followed the team silently. He has not spoken a word since leaving Lisieux town. He watched the team of braves, dogs, and friends quickly rush into the group of monsters, and then the light of God fell from the sky, the phantom of the scale appeared, and then the people and dogs in the team jumped back and forth, again and again repeatedly. And now, Blacksmith Ge Lang finally couldn't bear it anymore. The direction is wrong. Blacksmith Ge Lang said as he took another sip of wine. I spent 3 full hours grinding monsters. Yilin finally rose to another level. Finally. Congratulations, your level has been improved. Level increased to LV31. Get God-given points. Li Erpang curiously looked at the golden light above Yilin's head that had not dissipated, and was extremely puzzled. That's weird. Logically speaking, your level is lower, and you should be able to level up faster than us. How come we only leveled up 1 level, and you only leveled up, level 1? Yilin swiped her finger down, opened the panel, looked at the attributes on it, and made random remarks. Players and their experience values cannot be generalized. Have you ever heard of the experience floating rate? It's normal to have a slight gap in this process. When I rejoined the team, I had just upgraded and my experience points were empty, so it seemed like it was a little slower. Li Erpang nodded, expressing his belief. Originally, Li Erpang felt that he couldn't believe a single punctuation mark in what this guy said. But there's nothing to fool around about level. It's clearly there, so what can you do if you don't believe it? Brother Yilin, your output seems a bit. Ningyu silently calculated every number Yilin typed, feeling that something was wrong, but he couldn't explain what was wrong. It's low anyway. This output is a bit unworthy of the assassin profession. Yilin had known that Ningyu would be suspicious, so she could only shake the two chipped daggers in her hands with a helpless expression, and said, "There is no way, I left Izada port in a hurry, and I didn't have time to change weapons." Having said that, the explosion rate of monsters in the wild is too low. We have been farming monsters for 3 hours, but only one piece of equipment has exploded, and it is for tanks. Li Erpang stood aside and straightened the thick green leather carved helmet on his head with a smile on his face. He seemed to be very satisfied with the properties of this piece of tank equipment. Although there is something wrong with the shape. But Li Erpang didn't mind this either. No matter how cool the look is, does it have practical attributes? Don't tell me that being handsome is a lifetime thing. Life is a lifetime. He's dead, what's the use of being handsome? The town of Rab is located in the southernmost part of the Gaia continent. It is surrounded by the Rab Basin in a circle. The southernmost part is close to the Sea of Clouds and there is no port, so I can only watch it lonely. To the north of the Labu Basin is the route Yilin and others took before, passing through the moonlight jungle and endless swamps, and arriving at Izada port. To the west, there is a Labu mountain land. It seems that it is still inseparable from Rab town. Although the level of the monsters inside is higher than that of the monsters in the Labu Basin, for Yilin's team, they still fall into the category of bullying children. Li Erpang holds the super rare title of Stop Bullying Children and is certified by the gods. He bullies the poor monsters without any sympathy, pity, or guilt, and kills the monsters until they scream. The monsters that were originally designed to be scary actually looked a little cute and pitiful under the ferocious-looking fatty hammer Li Er. Blacksmith Ge Lang saw that no one paid attention to him. He could only kindly remind, the direction is wrong. Ever since Yilin and others were tricked by the NPC, High Priest Gil, no one dared to underestimate the NPC in the game anymore. While Ningyu was busy killing monsters, he glanced at Blacksmith Ge Lang who was following the team and explained, no hurry, let's practice first. Blacksmith Ge Lang. The NPCs in the game seemed to understand the meaning of experience. Maybe Blacksmith Ge Lang was once a glorious adventurer, until he got stabbed several times in the face. Near the edge of the leveling area. In the distance, several people saw a forest shrouded in fog at the boundary of the leveling area. About there. Ningyu stopped and said softly. Li Erpang looked around and saw that there were no blind children or monsters coming to kill him. He put away his hammer and shield with peace of mind, swallowed hard and said, is it time for a picnic again? I'm almost starving. Luck. After another bonfire party. 4 people, 1 dog, and an NPC blacksmith. They burped after eating and were very satisfied. Just when a few people were taking a break, different system prompts appeared in front of the team of 4 people and 1 dog. The reputation of the Holy See of Uranus -300. The reputation of the Holy See of Uranus -400. The reputation of the Holy See of Uranus -500. The current reputation level of the Holy See of Uranus is cold. Please keep up the good work. Yilin gritted her teeth and silently opened the newly unlocked reputation panel not long ago. This panel, like title and achievements, are all anchored in the submenu of the system panel. Yilin checked by the way. The log out button at the bottom of the system panel was still dim. When she clicked it, nothing happened. Prestige of the Holy See of Uranus -1700/-3000. Li Erpang unlocked the reputation system for the first time and started playing with it curiously. On Yilin's reputation panel, in addition to the Holy See of Uranus, two other forces were unlocked. They are Moonlight Village 133/6000, friendly. Moonlight Wolf Clan 0/12000, respected. Not long after Yilin unlocked the panel, she learned that the village where the village leader died was called Moonlight Village. Simple and crude naming method. In Moonlight Village, Yilin finally discovered a hidden branch, saved the village, and brought permanent peace to Moonlight Jungle. It was not surprising that her reputation level was raised to friendly. But the reputation of the Moonlight Wolf clan is inexplicably respected, which is a bit intriguing. Yilin glanced at it. Then he looked at Wang Tiandi, who was baking dog hair by the campfire and picking his teeth with his legs crossed. The attribute of licking dogs is actually contagious. Could it be that Moonlight Wolf King was diagnosed with Stockholm Syndrome by himself? As expected, like a husband, like a wife. Yilin sighed softly. Emperor Wang Tian. Ningyu quickly swallowed the wild boar meat in his mouth. This is an ordinary material exploded from a LV-22 steel-cracked flying pig. Not to mention, it tastes really good. Whether it is boiled or roasted, with various spices, the fragrance spreads for thousands of miles, and the way of cooking is cumin. After swallowing all the flying pork in his mouth, Ningyu burped and spoke slowly. It seems that the other party has arrived in Labutown. I don't know how much time they can be delayed. Yilin smiled and said, it doesn't matter. It's best if you can delay it. It's the icing on the cake. If you can't delay it, just treat it as leveling up. Li Erpang buried his head in eating hard. At this moment, he finally raised his head, his mouth was full of grease, and he said vaguely, speaking of which, your skills are so awesome. You can pinch people just like the real ones. It's so realistic. What's the origin of those talents and skills? Ningyu didn't hide anything. I'm standing here and you come and beat me. Li Erpang was stunned. He subconsciously raised his one-handed hammer and was about to hit Ningyu's calm face. Yilin and Xiao Chuer slowly raised a question mark. But they all took out their weapons in unison. So cruel. We have never heard such a request in our lives. Ningyu saw the expressions of his teammates and knew that they had misunderstood. Before they took action, Ningyu took a few steps back and quickly explained, I mean, the name of my talent skill is, I stand here and you hit me. It is a skill that can change the terrain, although the scope is small, it can have certain miraculous effects when used in certain specific situations. Everyone lowered their weapons at the same time. Just pretend that the incident of almost beating Ningyu just now never happened. Li Erpang touched his double chin curiously. Change the terrain? Can it also be shaped into a clay figure? Li Erpang suddenly had a bold idea. Just when Li Erpang was hesitating whether to speak out his bold idea. After Yilin was silent for a moment, he suddenly showed a kind smile and said, I have a bold idea about your skill. Dusk. There are no clouds in the sky, only a red glow, but it is equally beautiful. 14 black ships, billowing with dark steam, looked like the source of air pollution, and the roaring sounds of boilers converged into one, coming from the horizon. Your Majesty the Pope. Another bonfire was found there. The target had a picnic in the Labu Mountains not long ago. Huh? It smells like the steel-cracked flying pig. Pope de Ge sat upright on his chair, expressionless. The gaps between the teeth are red. After a moment, he laughed and said, send someone down to take a look. A few minutes later, those who got off quickly reboarded the airship. is fake. Pope de Ge was not surprised by this bad news. He closed his eyes and thought about what he said when provoking himself in the communication crystal. Really going all the way west? Sure enough, the military advisor who fights against the apocalypse on the front line, the guy known as the Fox, is not that simple. I can't say that his intelligence is too profound, but his character is insidious and he talks nonsense. Thinking of this, Pope de Ge smiled slightly, full of emotions, and stood up from the luxurious chair. Priest Gil, our fuel is not enough. High Priest Gil looked hesitant, his brows knitted together. Seeing the hesitation of High Priest Gil, Pope de Ge knew what the NPC was thinking. Li Changa immediately hummed, and after brewing his emotions, various gorgeous visions once again appeared in the sky at dusk. The charming angel, the gate of heaven, the echoing singing. Not enough. Immediately afterwards, pieces of bright seven-color divine light were like a curtain of light hanging from the sky, covering all 14 aerostats. Even the aerostat, which is dark in color and ferocious in shape, adds a bit of sacred and inviolable aura out of thin air against the backdrop of the seven-color light, making it extremely gorgeous. On the deck, those who witnessed this miracle with their own eyes knelt on the ground, their brows full of piety. Honor Uranus, the gods, have appeared again. My emperor, Djagi Anthony, is indeed the spokesperson of God. Seeing that the miracle had come again, High Priest Gil did not dare to hesitate any longer and said quickly, "Back to the Pope, we have plenty of fuel." Then, chase me all the way. Full cannon, fire. Rumble. Ka-ka-ka. A light cannon was pushed out from the hull of the ship, and bright rays of light intertwined, spreading a dazzling sea of fire on the ground. Rumble. Countless monsters turned into ashes one after another. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 363. There is a bonfire in the rugged forest. Give me a blast. Trace of the enemy's picnic was found near Wuxin Lake. Beside the campfire, another pair of enemy dummies appeared. Well, this time you don't have to look to know it's fake. Blast again. Brando abandoned the crystal mine and found traces of the enemy's picnic. Forget it. Next one. Next one. I found traces of the enemy. That dog, actually raised its middle finger. I suspect it was some kind of signal. What the hell? I still don't believe it. You are really so honest and heading west. Let me, my emperor, chase you. 14 smoke-filled aerostats flew over the sky angrily, with black smoke and dark clouds all the way, and the air pollution capacity was at its maximum. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 10 minutes. When the shadows of the 14 aerostats completely disappeared from the horizon. Around the campfire, the Wang Tiandi mud dog who was motionless with his middle finger raised suddenly sneezed. As Emperor Wang Tian sneezed, the other clay figures also started to move. Li Erpang patted the mud on his body and said, "What the hell? Did you really trick that old man? That's awesome." Ning Yu explained with a smile, nothing but taking advantage of the opponent's habitual thinking. However, I didn't expect Brother Yilin's idea to be so bold. Yilin chuckled and said, "Blacksmith Ge Lang said that one shot would consume the equivalent of 100,000 gold coins in fuel. Every shot is worth money." Even though he knew it was a fake, he wouldn't do anything maybe just to show off. There were sparks and lightning all the way. Several people took out the map and quickly studied the next route on the spot after deceiving the aerostat's killer weapon. Li Erpang was too lazy to think so much, so he put the pork stew pot that had not been fully cooked not long ago on the campfire again, and happily waited for the meal to start. Foodie. Xiao Chuer saw Li Erpang's movements from the corner of her eye and rolled her eyes with disdain, but quietly put a clean empty bowl under the pot. Yilin ignored the other people's little actions. He frowned slightly and pointed at the map. We're here now. It's about 2 levels away from the extreme west of Gaia continent. If everything goes well, that player should chase us all the way to the shore, thinking that we are going to escape from the Gaia continent from this direction. Blacksmith Ge Lang said that there are 3 ports on the Gaia continent where long-distance aerostats can be found. The first is Izada Port, the largest commercial and civilian port. Unfortunately, it is no longer usable. The second thing is to the north here, a 2 lions country with a population of 100,000. It is said that there is a military port in it, which is not open to civilians unless we have enough reputation points. Third, in the far west of Gaia, there is a secret port that few people know about and is used for smuggling in the black market. There are many aerostats of unknown origin parked there. Gilug gilug. The aroma from the pot wafts out. Li Erpang said with a shy face, "Do you want to eat something?" "Don't interrupt, we're talking about business." Yilin quickly scooped a full bowl, and continued to analyze the current situation without changing her expression. According to the sailing speed of the 14 aerospace boats, if he really doesn't believe in evil, kill him all the way. If we don't turn back until we reach the secret port of the black market, we will have about 12 hours left, that is, until tomorrow morning. If he was delayed for a while because of other things, maybe this time could be longer. Ning Yu was drinking hot soup with a stern expression. In other words, within these 12 hours, we must arrive at the 2 lions country and grab an aerospace boat at the military port. That person died inexplicably. Leave this land before the players who are biting us can react. It stands to reason that this is the procedure. Fatty, please continue your bowl. Li Erpang took the spoon with a happy expression. He was eating bowl after bowl, feeling very happy. But when Yilin said this, Fatty Li immediately became angry. "What the hell, do you think Fatty and I are the ant in charge of the cafeteria?" Yilin looked at Li Erpang expressionlessly. "Then you want to think about something. Okay, full on." Li Erpang quickly took Yilin's empty bowl and filled Yilin's full bowl. "Instead of thinking about this stuff, let's just be an ant in the cafeteria. It's much more comfortable than using your brain." The next itinerary was quickly decided by the 3 people, who were like the brain trust of the team. After meeting Ge Lang blacksmith ahead, Yilin and others passed through the last leveling area and finally arrived at the 2 Lions Kingdom. Because of the need to gain time, several people did not dare to level up arbitrarily. Yilin explored the path ahead and chose a route with the fewest monsters, trying to avoid the deceptive turn-based battle. Yilin's level is still at LV31. It's a bit of a loss. Yilin looked at the densely populated red monsters in these leveling areas and felt quite regretful. If it weren't for these holdbacks. Yilin thought about it in her mind, but she was not embarrassed to say this out loud. After all, the way he spawned monsters was suspected of cheating. In order to prevent his teammates from reporting his real name, Yilin did not show his true strength in front of his teammates. Now only Wang Tiandi knows that Yilin is actually paddling. The kind that is very thorough. No wonder Emperor Wang Tian glanced at Yilin from time to time, his eyes full of contempt. The Kingdom of 2 Lions. The city walls are high. The architectural style of the city is a bit like that of a medieval Western country, with the bluestone floor glowing. In the city, pedestrians are polite, smoking steam crystal vehicles pass by from time to time, and everything is prosperous and orderly. Blue flags fluttering in the wind. On the flag, there is a pattern of 2 male lions standing proudly back to back. One of the lions holds a sword, and the other lion holds a shield. This country's pattern was not designed by anyone. Such asymmetrical graphics made OCD feel uncomfortable after looking at them. Blacksmith Ge Lang was silent all the way. But when he came to the city wall of the Double Lion Kingdom, he stared deeply at the Double Lion flag and murmured to himself, "Humility, honor, sacrifice, bravery, mercy, honesty, justice, spirituality, here are the generals, a country where chivalry is practiced to the very end." Blacksmith Ge Lang is an NPC that can follow players, so no one dares to ignore what he says. The four of them quickly gathered together and whispered. Li Erpang, my keen sense as an elite high-end player tells me that there must be an important hidden quest line hidden in this old boy. Ning Yu, agree. Xiao Chuer, +1. I guess anyone who is not blind can see it. After all, in the huge town of Lebu, only this blacksmith took the initiative to run away with the player. In professional game terms, this is clearly an unrestricted NPC with high-end intelligence. You know it, but how to trigger it is another question. The prosperity of the Twin Lion Kingdom is comparable to that of Izada Port. People come and go, bustling. Everyone is dressed in decent and noble clothes, elegant and calm, with a smile on their face. They are polite and kind to everyone. Li Erpang felt the completely different customs from the prosperous Izada Port. He subconsciously touched his plump double chin and closed his eyes. Oh, I feel the breath of adventure again. Ning Yu saw that Li Erpang was starting to show off again, and this time he couldn't help but correct him. What you want to say is, feel the aura of the side mission. He, almost. Xiao Chuer frowned lightly and ruthlessly poured cold water on the two of them. Don't forget, we are pressed for time and we don't have time to go to the branch line this time. And don't forget the experience in Izada Port. In this game, NPCs can also trick people, so don't think that the rewards from side missions are so easy to get. Wang Tiandi raised his paws and drooped his ears, as if he remembered something painful, silently expressing his agreement. Although people's gaming experiences may not be the same, the game experience between humans and dogs cannot be generalized. No one knows how Wang Tiandi, who is a dog, accepts the mission, or how he completes the mission. If no one can transform into a dog or learn dog language, this may be a mystery that will never be solved. After Blacksmith Ge Lang said that incomprehensible line, which seemed to be introducing the background of the Two Lions Kingdom, he fell silent again. Li Erpang and the other two are also used to Blacksmith Ge Lang's pretentious behavior, so they are not surprised. In fact, although Blacksmith Ge Lang followed the team of braves, dogs, and friends and was shirtless and carrying a hammer, he had no intention of helping to clear monsters along the way. From time to time, he would drop a line to provide a few people with help. Key information, or introduction to the relevant background of the leveling area. Other than that, it has no other use. If Blacksmith Ge Lang hadn't given lines from time to time, they might have forgotten this important NPC somewhere. Ning Yu suddenly frowned. In the crowd, everyone in the Twin Lion Kingdom was smiling. But he always felt that something was wrong. For a while, I couldn't tell. Li Erpang followed the crowd towards the city and idly brushed the panel. Suddenly Li Erpang let out a sigh. What the hum? Look at the reputation panel. I didn't do anything. The reputation of the Holy See of Auranos dropped directly from indifferent to hostile. What kind of hatred? What's the hate? I didn't dig up your ancestral graves. Ning Yu looked helpless. He opened it and took a look, and found that in his reputation, the reputation of the Holy See of Auranos had also been brushed from cold to hostile. It seems that one player is causing trouble. According to the settings in the game, the reputation of hostile should be the level of becoming famous upon meeting, which is no different from monsters in the wild. From now on, when meeting NPCs from the Holy See, be careful and don't make a bunch of NPCs hate you for no reason. Just when Ning Yu reminded everyone to pay attention to the Vatican NPC, Xiao Chuer, who had been observing the reactions of the people around him after entering the Kingdom of Two Lions, suddenly said, "Have you noticed that the people around us look at us strangely?" What the hell? Li Erpang squinted his eyes and pointed with trembling fingers, "My eyesight is not good. Can you help me take a look? Are there photos of my fat grandfather posted there from time to time?" Yuzhao. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer didn't have time to complain. But when they followed Li Erpang's hand, they found that that place was a bulletin board. There are 5 lifelike pictures posted on it. Li Erpang took a closer look. Suddenly I was angry and shocked. Is this actually a wanted order? I'm actually wanted by an NPC in the game. Damn it! I'm wanted. How should I deal with it? Yilin, tell me, how should I deal with it? Yurin. After a moment of silence, Li Erpang, Ningyu, and Xiao Chuer were angry at the same time, saying in unison, "He's gone again." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 364. I don't know how they got those 5 lifelike wanted notices. Maybe it's the black technology in the game that cannot be explored in depth. On the wanted notice, everyone's appearance, name, and bounty were clearly stated. There is also a line of text in it. Dead or alive? What does this bird song mean? Li Erpang didn't understand. Ningyu looked helpless and translated for the fat brother, "It doesn't matter whether you live or die." What the hell? Where's the wanted poster for this kid? Only then did they realize that everyone else was wanted whether dead or alive, but there was something different about Yilin's wanted order. Only alive. Outrageous. Even Emperor Wang Tian was wanted. On the wanted notice, there is a portrait of Emperor Wang Tian with a devilish smile and his middle finger raised. Li Erpang carefully counted the amount on the wanted order, the long string of zeros. Wait a minute, why is the bounty for a dog higher than mine? It's unscientific. Who designed the wanted order? Come on, fat man, I will stand up and I promise not to beat you to death. Ningyu's face changed slightly. Only the wanted poster for the protagonist can only be captured alive. Should I say, is it really worthy of being treated as a protagonist? But why is it placed in the plot? Several thoughts flashed through Ningyu's mind. Yilin disappeared again. Don't know when. When several people noticed Yilin's strange disappearance, Yilin had completely disappeared. Without any precaution, he just disappeared. Li Erpang was unable to complain. It seems that this scenario has been tried many times. Li Erpang felt that he was almost used to it. Walk. There were many smiling and kind civilians gathered around, pointing at the 4 people and 1 dog. Among these 4 people, Yilin was not included, but blacksmith Ge Lang was included. Blacksmith Ge Lang was very calm, silently pouring spicy wine into his mouth. He was not wanted after all. Nothing to panic about. At Ningyu's reminder, several people quickly left the bulletin board and went into the sparsely populated alley. As expected, a few people hid in the corner, not daring to bubble up. After Ningyu and others quickly left the bulletin board, in the distance, a group of NPC guards who were armed to the teeth and looked like they were not good at anything, rushed to the bulletin board aggressively, searching for traces of the brave team. They must still be nearby. The king has ordered that those 4 people and 1 dog are demons posing as the prophesied braves and trying to destroy world peace. Find them. Among the guards, there was an NPC who did not wear a helmet and showed his true face. He was riding a unicorn wearing a battle armor. He was very stylish and stood out among the group of faceless guards. The NPC riding a unicorn had a face as cold as iron, and his short golden hair was as smooth as if it had been painted with rejoice, swaying slowly in the breeze. Yes, Grand Knight Homeros. Several people huddled in the shadows. Li Erpang, the one with the name is boss. Ningyu, boss. Xiao Chuer, the boss is undoubtedly the boss. Among so many faceless NPCs, this one is the only one with a name and a face. What is it if it's not a boss? So what if the level is high? Isn't it just for players to brush? Although everyone thinks so. but no one, including Li Erpang, went to kill impulsively. After all, they are not stupid. Without knowing the level and attributes of the boss, if you rush to defeat the boss, you will most likely be killed by the boss. Others didn't dare, especially Li Erpang. Because the agility of the others is not low, it is possible to escape successfully. Only Fat can't run away. Seeing the big boss of Homelos, the guards had already dispersed to search. Ningyu and the others did not dare to stay. They hurriedly shuttled through the alleys and left near the city gate. This Twin Lion Kingdom is a large city with a population of 100,000. It is not easy to find 4 people and 1 dog in the huge crowd of people in a short while. Fortunately, blacksmith Ge Lang was very cooperative and did not cause any trouble at such a critical moment, which made Li Erpang and others feel at ease. Woof! Suddenly, Wang Tiandi turned his head and barked softly in a certain direction. The few people were already in the stage of lurking quietly, but Wang Tiandi's bark immediately frightened Li Erpang. But before Li Erpang could press Wang Tiandi's dog's head, Yilin walked out slowly in a cloak in the direction Wang Tiandi was looking. What the hell? Where did your kid go? SHH. Yilin raised his index finger, making a silent gesture, and threw an ordinary-looking piece of equipment to everyone. Cloak of the Wanted. Rarity D. Category Armor. Part Accessories. Attribute Defense Add 1. Effect: the appearance can be changed after equipping it. Durability 50/50. What a good thing. Where did it come from? Ningyu's eyes lit up. Although the added attributes were terrible, the changing appearance effect was what they needed most at the moment. Yilin explained casually, go forward here, take the 3rd intersection, turn right, and at the 2nd intersection, there is a secret door under a signboard. After entering, you will find a black market, so I bought it casually. Li Erpang was stunned. You, how did you find the legendary black market so quickly? Are you cheating? Accident. This time Yilin didn't cheat. After he entered the city gate, he habitually turned on Shadow Follower. After Yilin noticed the strange looks from the civilians in the city, she felt something was wrong, so she quietly activated Shadow Killing at the corner, turning into a shadow and following behind Li Erpang and the others. After seeing the wanted notice on the bulletin board, Yilin didn't have the chance to remind his teammates, so he wandered in the gaps in the form of a shadow. During this period, an incident also occurred, when he accidentally broke into a private house. Ahem. In the shadow state, Yilin was seamless and pervasive, but she accidentally entered the black market. There are many shady transactions in the underground black market. This wanted person's cloak can be said to be a standard piece of equipment in the underground black market, and it is not too rare. Yilin borrowed a few pieces and brought them back. Really borrowed. If there is a chance, I will definitely return it. Everyone in the team didn't dare to delay and quickly put on the wanted person's cloak. After putting it on, the appearance really changed. It turned into the same posture as Yilin, hiding the head and showing the tail. It's still a game after all. Ningyu pointed speechlessly at Emperor Wang Tian not far away. Wang Tiandi was obviously wearing the same equipment, but after putting on the wanted man's cloak, the cloak turned into the shape of a male dog. The few people did not dare to stay where they were, and took blacksmith Ge Lang quickly away from the search range of the guards. What should we do now? Just grab an aerospace boat. As Li Erpang walked, he expressed his bold thoughts. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer looked at Yilin. I don't know why, although Yilin is the native in this trial, maybe because of the protagonist halo or something like that, the protagonist always has some unexpected ideas, which makes Ningyu and Xiao, who are apostles, Chuer also gradually looked at this indigenous protagonist with admiration. Compared with the protagonist who was tricked to death by the apostles in the previous trials, the protagonist of this trial is really too sinister. Too much, too much. After Yi Lin entered the kingdom of two lions, she was already thinking about the next step. Time is running out. Unexpectedly, the wanted order was sent here. Although the largest branch of the Holy See on the continent of Gaia is in Port Izada, it is obvious that the Holy See's influence is also entrenched in the kingdom of two lions. Otherwise, the glorious deeds of Yi Lin and others would never have spread so quickly. It was so fast that even wanted notices were printed out and posted neatly, which was simply outrageous. Yi Lin took out another map. Li Erpang looked at the new version of the map in Yi Lin's hand, and his eyes suddenly widened. What the hell? A tourist map of the Double Lion country? Where did it come from? Ahem, I bought one when I passed by the grocery store. This familiar rhetoric made Ningyu and Xiao Chuer's expressions instantly weird. But they didn't break it either. There is no time to care about these details now. The structure of the Twin Lion Kingdom is divided into three urban areas, inner, and outer. Yi Lin pointed at a blank spot on the map and smiled. Although the military port of the Twin Lions Kingdom is not open to tourists, there is a blank area on the map, but this blank area is like being naked in a bathhouse. Among the people, there appeared a strange man wearing clothes, so conspicuous. Ningyu quickly scanned the map and nodded. It should be right here. Huh. It seems that you have also discovered that although this hidden military port is in the outer city, this part is closed by walls on both sides. There are only two ways to reach this location, either through the inner city or climbing the wall. Climb the wall. Fatty Lier was slightly stunned. He raised his head and looked at the 20-meter-high city wall in the distance. It's such a tall wall. Are you telling Fatty to climb the wall? Are you kidding me? How to climb? Use your mouth. Yi Lin smiled slightly, and as if by magic, he took out a bunch of equipment from the props. Several people took a closer look. Hook rope. Rarity C. Category props. Effect can be used to climb over obstacles such as walls. The maximum length of the rope is 25 meters and the maximum load is 120 kilograms. Note, there is a risk of falling to death if you climb over the wall. Don't try it lightly. Under the strange looks of everyone, Yi Lin separated the hook rope. Ah, this? Why are you so well prepared? Are you a thief or an assassin by profession? Don't you think it's outrageous? Xiao Chuer and Ningyu also felt it was outrageous. What does this protagonist do? What do you want? What exactly is in his props column? Does the protagonist work part-time as a department store? Yi Lin seemed to take it for granted. They are sold in grocery stores. Yeah, the all-purpose grocery store. Poor grocer. When it was Blacksmith Ge Lang's turn, Blacksmith Ge Lang snorted coldly, looked disdainful, and did not pick up the hook rope. It seems that he has his own way. Weird NPC. Others ignored it. After taking over the hook rope, Li Erpang looked at the properties of the hook rope and immediately shivered. What? The maximum load is 120 kg. Swish, swish, swish. Everyone looked towards Li Erpang. Are you overweight? Li Erpang said with a sad face, I'm not sure, but I feel that I should, maybe, more than 120 kilograms. Ningyu, a moment of silence. Xiao Chuer, let's go. Emperor Wang Tian put his paws on his chest, closed his dog eyes, and mourned in silence. Yi Lin patted Li Erpang on the shoulder. After a moment of silence, he said, we will remember you. I remember your sister so much. I'm not dead yet, okay? Don't set up flags randomly. Wait a minute. Li Erpang felt it was unlucky and quickly slapped Yi Lin's hand away. It was a matter of life and death. Li Erpang's mind became more active than ever before. He suddenly looked directly at Ningyu. What is your skill? Can't it be very realistic? Can't you dig a hole in the city wall? Ningyu spread his hands and smiled, "Fat brother, I'm sorry. My ability, well, the innate skill is that I stand here and you come and hit me. It can only change the terrain on the flat ground, but it doesn't have any effect on walls." Method. Innate skills. Wall. Ground. Hole. Yilin's eyes narrowed. He suddenly. After thinking for a moment. Yilin suddenly smiled. Smile and be kind. Not necessarily, maybe, I have another bold idea. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 365. The Kingdom of Two Lions is a country famous for its chivalry. Located in the northwest corner of Gaia. The folk customs are simple and honest, and everyone follows the way of chivalry. Humility, honor, sacrifice, heroism, mercy, honesty, justice, spirituality. This 16-word creed is a traditional virtue that is imprinted deep into the soul of every citizen of the Twin Lion Kingdom. It can be said that almost every civilian here, as long as he mounts a tamed monster mount, puts on a battle armor, and carries a shield, he is a qualified knight with both good character and academic skills, without the need for additional training. Of course, the combat effectiveness is another matter. For them, knight is not a fighting profession, but a life profession. Now, in the Kingdom of Two Lions, the whole city is on alert. Just because someone reported with a real name that someone who looked like an important wanted criminal brazenly entered the Two Lions country. No one will think this is bragging or lying about military intelligence. Because the people of the Twin Lion Kingdom are honest enough. Once you say it, you will never dare to lie or disdain it. As a result, the Grand Knight Homeros, who is the Grand Knight of the Kingdom and the dream lover of thousands of unmarried girls in the Twin Lion Kingdom, personally led the personal guards and launched a blanket search throughout the city. "Brother Yilin, there seems to be something wrong with your map." Yilin's team, 4 people and 1 dog, quietly walked through the alleys, following the map obtained from the grocery store, studying the route in advance, and planned to go to the military port to borrow an aerospace boat and escape from the Gaia continent. They were huddled in the corner. Blacksmith Ge Lang silently followed a few people, drinking sullen wine. He seemed to have no opinion or idea about the wanted status of Yilin and others. It looked like a functional NPC that was both brainless and loyal, following a few people. As the saying goes, a straight line is the shortest between 2 points. Although a few people have researched the route, it actually has no technical content. But when they walked a certain distance, they were dumbfounded. This map is wrong. Several people gathered in a circle, and then Li Erpang suddenly squinted his eyes, pointed at the lower right corner of the map, and roared, "What the hum?" The final right of interpretation belongs to Shuangshizhou grocery store. Yilin. Ningyu. Xiaochuer. That line of writing was as small as an ant. I really don't know how Li Erpang, who has bad eyesight, discovered it. If it wasn't for Li Erpang's reminder, Ningyu and Xiaochuer really didn't notice that line of writing. Thought it was just a stain on the map. Yilin looked calm and closed the map. He looked around for a while and saw a nervous-looking middle-aged woman NPC standing not far away, so he walked straight forward. Xiaochuer was slightly startled. "Wait, what are you doing out there?" "Ask for directions." "Ask for directions." Etc. What to ask? With fists? They are wanted criminals now. Who the hell would be so kind as to tell a wanted criminal the escape route, you bastard? Not only his teammates, but also Wang Tiandi felt that Yilin might have had a seizure in his head at that moment, so he made such an outrageous move. Yilin finished speaking matter-of-factly, and regardless of what her dog teammates thought, she quickly came to the middle-aged woman NPC. "Excuse me." Yilin spread out the map with a kind smile. The middle-aged female NPC was shocked at first. She clearly recognized Yilin. Li Erpang was ready to run away. Unexpectedly, the middle-aged female NPC actually gave Yilin the direction. Wang Tiandi's eyes suddenly widened. Woof. Yilin returned to the alley with a smile on her face. Li Erpang, how the hell can it still be like this? Ning Yu was speechless. The setting is a country of knights, no matter who asks, you can't lie, right? To a certain extent, this is really a game. Haha, Yilin smiled. Do you know why there is a black market in this country of two lions, which seems to have simple folk customs? I guess it is precisely because of this kind of chivalry that everyone feels that the NPCs here are easy to fool and bully. Even if they are discovered, they will not be angry. After all, one of their life creeds is mercy. No matter what you do, you will be forgiven here. Therefore, many people in this country are doing things secretly. Will anything be forgiven? When Li Erpang heard this, he suddenly had several bold ideas. Let's not talk about it for now. Yilin waved her hand and looked at the middle-aged woman NPC not far away from her peripheral vision. The middle-aged female NPC looked in this direction with fear, then suddenly turned around and ran towards a guard team at the end of the street. Xiao Chuer, she is going to report. Otherwise. Don't forget, honesty is a virtue of chivalry. Then why doesn't she come up and fight us to the death? Li Erpang smacked his lips and said, it seems that in Lao Shi's knighthood, there are also bravery and sacrifice. Certainly. Li Erpang was just complaining and complaining. He doesn't really want a civilian NPC to fight for him. Even if civilian NPCs don't resist beatings, this is a turn-based world. Even if they line up to kill these hundreds of thousands of NPCs in waves, they will still be killed until the end of the year of the monkey. As an elite player, Li Erpang still has some judgment ability. According to what the kind and honest NPC said, the blank space on the map, which is the location of the military port, should be in this direction. Ning Yu nodded, his expression solemn. Xiao Chuer suddenly raised her hand and said, actually, I have a question. Except for one overweight person, everyone else here should be able to climb the rope. Captain, there is no need to take such a risk. On the surface, Xiao Chuer seems to be worried about Yilin's safety. In fact, she was afraid that Yilin would go too far and kill herself. She and Ning Yu have worked hard to follow the protagonist line so far, and have gained a lot of favorability with the protagonist. The other apostle who appeared has quickly accumulated a huge advantage in the reputation of the villain through the opening game. She and Ning Yu were already at a disadvantage. If even the protagonist is wasted, all their hard work these days will be in vain. Not only Xiao Chuer, but Ning Yu also thought so. Li Erpang, as the protagonist's leg hair, is dead when he dies. Maybe the protagonist's dog plays a more important role in the plot than this fat guy. After Xiao Chuer said it, Ning Yu nodded silently. He was embarrassed to say it, but now that Xiao Chuer had become this ugly person, Ning Yu silently expressed his true thoughts. Li Erpang was suddenly startled. Wait a minute, isn't it a plan that we agreed on? How can we just change it? Yilin glanced at Li Erpang and smiled. Hurry up and act as planned. Seeing that the protagonist had decided to leave, Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer sighed softly and did not stop him. Yilin flipped her palm and shook out the hook rope. He aimed at the top of the city wall and threw it hard. The props in the game are easy to use. Yilin felt that she had no experience using this kind of prop, but as soon as the rope was thrown out, the hook at the end rose straight up and firmly hooked the highest point of the city wall. Talk about it. If Yilin was the only one, there would be no need to use this troublesome method. With his two innate skills of Shadow Kill and Summon Mount, Night Dire, there is almost no place he cannot go in this game. But since Yilin was determined not to let these two abilities be easily exposed in front of others, Yilin could only use this troublesome and stupid method. Yilin's movements are very agile. Like a very flexible monkey. In the blink of an eye, we were halfway up. And in the distance. There were faint sounds of messy footsteps. The guards are here. Quick! Hide! In the absence of the captain, Ningyu decisively took over the command of the team temporarily. There is no such thing as letting Li Erpang be the captain. The urban area in Chuangshi is a civilian area with many low-rise houses, and the most indispensable thing is small alleys. Several people ducked into the alley, but the guards were short of manpower and couldn't pull them out for a while. When they are hidden, look up again. It was discovered that there was only a slightly swaying rope left on the city wall, but Yulin himself had already successfully climbed to the top of the city wall. Great Knight Homeros, a suspicious figure was found on the outer wall of the city. Soon after, Li Erpang and others hid. Yulin's figure running quickly on the city wall attracted the attention of the guards. Originally, the guards had launched a blanket search in Chuangshi Foreign City. Once a suspicious person appears, the surrounding citizens will report it honestly and with their real names without hiding anything. Yulin did not use any skills when running on the city wall, and soon attracted the attention of many people. 1 passed it to 10, 10 passed it to 100, 100, and finally it all reached the ears of the great knight Homeros. On the snow-white armored unicorn, the handsome, blonde and blue-eyed Homeros slowly opened his eyes. That expression was like eternal ice. No matter who saw it, they would feel an indifference that could repel people thousands of miles away. But it is this image of an iceberg god that attracts countless girls and flocks to him. The love letters Homeros receives every year can fill several bookshelves. On the city wall, Yulin attracted the guards' attention. From a high position, he was able to have a panoramic view of what was going on nearby. I'm Yulin. Pay attention. The guards have begun to gather towards me. You should act quickly, over. Yulin quickly opened the communication crystal and sent a message to other teammates. I'm Ningyu. Received. Please pay attention to your safety and be sure to survive until the end. Over. Over there, also started taking action. It is a pity that the outer, middle, and inner city walls are higher than the other from the inside to the outside. Standing on the outer city wall, Yulin could only see the movement in the middle and outer cities. The innermost royal area was blocked by the high city wall. Unless Yulin had perspective, she could not see the movement inside at all. Another thing that is fortunate is that because all battles in this world rely on turn-based combat, apart from war weapons, no outrageous long-distance sniping methods have been developed. Otherwise, Yulin's behavior would be the best living target, bar none. As long as he runs fast enough, he can't catch up in the turn system. Suddenly. Right now. Yulin's steps suddenly stopped. He stood alone on the wall. I don't know if it's because he has particularly keen senses. A sharp gaze looked directly at him across the crowd. Yulin's heart moved, and following her feeling, she turned to look at the bottom of the city wall. Only a few hundred meters away. In the middle of the chaotic street, on the spacious street, there was an empty circle about 10 meters in diameter. In the center of the empty circle, a man with blonde hair and blue eyes, a stern expression, and wearing heavy armor stood proudly on the street. A gorgeous two-handed sword, not yet unsheathed. The blonde man pressed the hilt of the sword with both hands, and stuck the sheathed two-handed sword upside down on the ground, full of force. Yulin smiled slightly. From a distance, he slowly stretched out his hand towards Homeros, who was showing off on the street. A hook with the index finger. Come here. Homeros's eternal expression finally changed. The iceberg god frowned slightly. In an instant, he kicked the ground violently. Boom. The moment he made a move, the ground paved with bluestone seemed to have been slapped hard. Kick, kick, kick. Homeros took long strides, wearing heavy armor, like a heavy tank, and rushed towards the outer city wall. In the open area where Homeros stayed not long ago, a clear footprint was left. The ground was crushed by several centimeters, and countless cracks spread like spider webs in all directions. Really coming? On the city wall. Yulin had just hooked her index finger twice and immediately stopped her provocative movements. At the same time, Yulin's expression also showed a moment of shock. He didn't expect that as the boss, her mellows would actually be provoked by him. Isn't he so candid and provocative? According to the rules of the game, in order to maintain the boss's strength and status, didn't the boss first fight a small round, and finally the boss couldn't help but take action? This is illogical. And, the speed is ridiculous. Homeros is wearing armor, with a quivering cloak on his back, and the national symbol of two lions on his chest, shining brightly. But under the constraints of this heavy armor, Homeros' stride speed was incredibly fast. When Yulin was stunned for a moment, he had already crossed 1/3 of the distance of several hundred meters. Yulin could even see clearly that in Homeros' cold eyes, there were 3 parts of coldness, 3 parts of anger, 3 parts of disdain, and 1 part of arrogance that could not be hidden. Even Yulin could see the fan-shaped eyes clearly, so one could imagine how close Boss Homeros had come. Reputation of the Two Lions Kingdom -100. Current reputation level, cold. After Yulin started to show up to challenge Homeros, a prompt to deduct his reputation points also appeared in front of his eyes. Yulin. The reputation value will definitely drop. After all, they did this. It is estimated that the situation will drop even more severely in the near future, and another hostile force will appear every minute. But at this moment, Yulin had no time to think about anything more. Because, when Homeros rushed to the edge of the city wall with his unsheathed two-handed sword like a heavy tank, a series of regular-shaped footprints and cracks in the spider webs were left behind Homeros. This power is so terrifying. Scenes are indeed destructible. But if you want to just walk, you will leave footprints on the road. Yulin also tried it herself. No success. One can imagine how high the level of her mellows is. A big skull appeared above Boss Homeros' head. Below, there's also a list of tips. LV? To sum up, Yulin is provoking a boss who is well equipped, has a crushing level, and is cold and angry. Yulin prepares to leave. Fighting head-on with the boss was not part of the plan. Actions beyond the plan will undoubtedly add a lot of variables. Yulin actually didn't expect that the boss would come to kill him just by hooking his fingers. Now that things have come to this, Yulin has nothing to regret. After all, he already had a way out. Don't panic. Yulin ran as fast as she could on the city wall. Under the city wall, following Homeros' movements, other guards also reacted, raised their weapons, and surrounded the city wall. Looking down from a high position, from this angle, a large group of armored guards from the Two Lion Kingdom looked like a group of hard-working ants. The shiny armor shone with a cold light, and the scene was spectacular. Yulin suddenly had the illusion of resisting a country with one person's power. Even though Yulin had assassination methods that were like cheating, if this wave of guards really had to be killed one by one, there wouldn't be enough medicine. Under the premise of a leapfrog kill, Yulin's set of combos requires a lot of medicine to restore crystal energy. A rough calculation showed that Yulin would be in great pain if no one reimbursed her for this wave of expenses if she wanted to fight her way out. Not worth it? It's not necessary either. In a very short period of time, Yulin had quickly analyzed the pros and cons. Without any hesitation, Yulin didn't even take out her weapons or the two mother spirits, and prepared to run away. Want to run? Homeros' cold facial features twisted slightly. He raised his head and looked at the arrogant and hateful figure on the city wall, his eyes even colder, like steel. For example, if Homeros' eyes could make people pregnant, Yulin might have given birth to a whole village by now. When Yulin was about to turn around and leave, the next movement of Homelos caused Yulin's expression to change suddenly. Homeros, who was running fast, suddenly stopped. This sudden breaking caused the bluestone slabs on the ground beneath my feet to be lifted up piece by piece, falling far away and shattering into gravel. Go! Homeros made a bow-shooting gesture on the spot, and the next second he suddenly threw the unsheathed two-handed sword towards Yilin's back. Call out! An exquisite two-handed sword, the scabbard is inlaid with many high-grade crystals. In mid-air, the powerful two-handed sword suddenly emitted a strange blue light. The blue light gathered around the sword body, reorganized and took shape. In just a short moment, the dazzling blue light transformed into a blonde girl wearing heavy armor just like Balila the little demon fairy. Excalibur. Yilin was shocked at first, and then understood. Sure enough, as a boss-level figure in a country, it is not surprising to have one of the 49 divine swords. It should be said that this is what a real boss should have. The Moonlight Wolf King next door should be crying and fainting in the wolf den. Duin. The dull hair on the blonde girl's forehead trembled slightly. The girl and her mellows are indeed from the same family, and their cold expressions seem to be printed from the same mold. The girl held the two-handed sword in her backhand and took advantage of the castration projected by her mellows to raise the sword towards Yilin's back. Goodbye. Yilin suddenly turned around and smiled slightly. The smile is very kind. Girl. Homeros. Auranos. To Lion Kingdom. After Yilin finished speaking, he took out a black, round bead with his backhand. This game really has everything you need. Smoke bomb. Rarity D. Effect creates a smoke area with -80% visibility. Used in battle, the dodge rate is increased by 40%, lasting for 1 round. Boom. Before the girl came over with her sword, Yilin smashed the smoke bomb at her feet with her backhand. Thick smoke billowed, completely covering Yilin's figure, making it difficult to see clearly. The blonde girl slowly typed a question mark, but without changing her expression, she rushed straight into the smoke. Judging from the look of the dull-haired blonde girl, it is obvious that she has experienced many battles. Holding a two-handed sword, although it has not yet been unsheathed, the strong killing intent has already been revealed. She didn't hesitate for a moment, and a series of question marks popped up above Domel. With a wave of her hands, the sword suddenly set off a fierce wind, and in the blink of an eye, the thick smoke generated by the explosion of the smoke bomb was blown away. I'm going to chop him to death. The blonde girl was thinking so. Even in the smoke. But at that time, the girl had already deeply remembered the man's location. No matter where she appears in the smoke, she will become the master's sword, smoothly chopping down the man who dares to provoke the master. The smoke cleared. The girl is about to draw her sword. That would be an earth-shattering sword. Duin. The dull hair on the girl's forehead trembled again. What about people? This boss's level is a bit high. Although Yilin could not see the true level of Homeros. From the status of Homeros in the Kingdom of Two Lions and the possession of the Excalibur, we can roughly guess that assuming that Homeros becomes a hostile NPC, under normal circumstances, this can only be done in the later stages of the game. Boss. When the smoke bomb was thrown down, Yilin had no intention of staying to defeat the boss. She decisively activated the skill Shadow Kill in the smoke, turned into a shadow calmly, and left silently, without even the scumbag's back. Too late to stay. After splitting up with her teammates, Yilin no longer had any worries when playing. He directly used the posture of Shadow to swagger through the groups of stationed guards. With such a simple incident, a large number of guards were attracted to the outer city. How long it can be delayed depends entirely on luck. After all, the level of Homeros is a bit high, and all attributes are very scary. Return to defense. It should be pretty easy too. Brother Nengyu, can you open the hole wider next time? Fatty, I've gained a lot of weight recently, and I almost couldn't squeeze out. Damn it, it wasn't close, I My butt is stuck, got it? Interior walls. The ground suddenly twisted, and a cave that could only accommodate one person was formed out of thin air from the ground beside the city wall. Immediately afterwards, Xiao Chuer and Ning Yu quickly climbed out of the cave. When it was Li Erpang's turn, his expression suddenly changed. The size of the cave was slightly smaller, leaving him just stuck at the exit, which was very embarrassing. Xiao Chuer and Ning Yu had no intention of paying attention to the little fat man. Just when Li Erpang was in a dilemma, Li Erpang suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his anus. With a powerful impact, there was a pop behind him, and Li Erpang popped out of the cave like a round ball. After Li Er was fat, Wang Tiandi smiled evilly, clapped his paws, got out of the cave, and shook the hair on his body wantonly. Xiao Chuer smiled and said, "I didn't expect that this skill of yours can be used like this. Creating a small tunnel that passes under the city wall. It's really a spiritual side. There are many tricks. Okay, stop joking. Brother Yilin is attracting the boss's attention, and we have to hurry up. Don't let Brother Yilin. Bah! That kid can't die, he's so insidious." Li Erpang quickly got up from the ground, glared at Guzi, and without saying anything else, he spit the dirt out of his mouth and ran towards the military port. Half an hour later, they hide, burrow, and hide along the way, and they come up with all kinds of tricks. Finally, 3 people and 1 dog arrived at the location specified in the plan. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 366. Ning Yu deliberately took out the map and confirmed it. There was nothing all around. Not even a single Twin Lion Kingdom guard was seen. It doesn't make sense. Li Erpang was ready to charge in bravely. But as soon as he took 2 steps, the 2 teammates and the dog behind him inexplicably stopped moving, and he quickly retracted. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer looked at each other. Eye contact is abundant. Li Erpang coughed twice, "It feels like there is a trap." Ning Yu, "What the hell?" Xiao Chuer, "Acridine." Emperor Wang Tian, "Wang." Except for Li Erpang, the other 2 people all had their eyes widened. They never expected that a teammate whose IQ was lacking would be able to say such wise words at such a time. "You." Ning Yu pondered for a moment and couldn't help but ask, could it be that he was blind? Fart. Li Erpang was angry and pointed at the open door, "This is not a fitness and maintenance club. With the door open like this, how stupid do you have to be to take this kind of atmosphere for granted, you bastard?" Military port, as the name suggests. This is a port that can only be used by the military of the Twin Lion Kingdom and is not open to ordinary people or any chamber of commerce. Generally speaking, places like this should be tightly guarded. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer were even mentally prepared to fight their way out. Unexpectedly, these 4 high walls with a door wide open in the middle made several people freeze in place and dared not move. Such an obvious trap, even Li Erpang could see it, let alone other people and dogs. Strangeness. Xiao Chuer whispered to herself, even the fat brother can see that the NPC's IQ should not be set so brainlessly. Or should we say, special scenes? Special plots? Li Erpang felt a slight pain in his balls. There's nothing wrong with what this beauty said. But why do I always feel something is wrong? After thinking for a moment, Ning Yu suddenly smiled, "It's a conspiracy." Conspiracy. It seems that the player should have pinned a hat of Port Izada on our heads. He also guessed that we would find a way to get an aerospace boat to leave the continent of Gaia. When we were in the wild before, in the alternative situation, we deceived him to the black market port in the west. When he found out that we were not there, he should be rushing here as fast as possible. Because this is the only port we can choose. In this game world, there is an unreasonable long-distance communication technology like communication crystal, and there is no information gap. Everyone in the Twin Lion Kingdom should have learned the information that we attacked Port Izada. Now, after learning that we wanted to escape through the port, the target of the ambush was clear. So, Ningyu finished speaking quickly, sighed, and concluded, this is a conspiracy. No matter how scheming he is, can we succeed? Li Erpang shook his small hammer. Just when a few people were entangled, Ningyu's communication crystal lit up. It's Yiren. The whole plan can actually be summed up in an old idiom. Tune the tiger away from the mountain. The assassin with the highest mobility attracted the attention of all the city guards, while the others used Ningyu's innate skills to quietly pass through the levels using tunnel warfare. From the outer city wall to the inner city wall, there are layers of guards. Yilin used the method of climbing the wall to attract the attention of Boss Hermelos to the city wall. No one expected that others would use such a wretched and unscrupulous method. Way to sneak in. When Yilin sent the contact, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Again. Among these NPCs, anyone can die, but the protagonist must not let him die. The communication crystal lights up, indicating that the protagonist Yilin is still alive. Even if the communication crystal sends last words, it is still better than the worst outcome. After the contact is connected. Before Ningyu and others could ask questions, Yilin frowned, you haven't come in yet. Li Erpang pushed his face away, why haven't you come here yet? We have a big problem here. When the little fat man interrupted, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer noticed that there was something wrong with the wording in Yilin's words. Come in? Etc. Ningyu's eyes widened, are you already inside? Yilin, yes. I've been waiting for you for a while. Everyone, why are you moving so fast? Others hurried into the military port. Regardless of whether there is a trap or not, isn't Yiren fine inside? So others have nothing to hesitate. Blacksmith Ge Lang still acts as the player's neighbor and good NPC silently. He doesn't speak, follows the team closely, and doesn't lag behind. He is very good. After several people passed through the high wall through the open door, their eyes suddenly opened up. Medium-sized aeroboats with 2 lions printed on them stood quietly outside the port. Straight ladders stretched out from the deck of the airship and connected to the port. After some commotion within the walls of the Twin Lion Kingdom, it was already dusk. The sunset glows brightly on the sea of clouds. Looking from a distance, the endless sea of clouds seems not to be clouds, but to a sheet of undulating blood. The spectacular scenery came into view in an instant, causing several people to stop breathing subconsciously. It seemed that even the slightest sound at this moment was a kind of blasphemy against the beautiful scenery of the sea of clouds filled with rays of light. What a beauty! There was a trace of confusion in Xiao Chuer's eyes, she was indeed a woman. I think you should have discovered it. Yilin didn't know when he appeared from behind several people. Except for blacksmith Ge Lang who tensed up, everyone else, including Emperor Wang Tiandi, was startled by the sudden sound behind them. What the hell? Are you walking silently? Li Erpang was angry. Yilin shook his head, don't pay attention to such details. Ningyu, you should have discovered it, right? Ningyu looked away from the beautiful scenery of the sea of clouds in the distance. He subconsciously touched his trouser pocket. Although he didn't take out anything, he didn't pause for a moment and said with a strange expression, I was very sure that I discovered the truth. But when you appeared, I had some doubts, you couldn't kill all the NPCs guarding the port, right? Yilin looked expressionless and pointed at his face, in your eyes, do I look like such a cruel player? A trace of obvious disappointment flashed across Xiao Chuer's face, so it's not. Damn you, you are so disappointed? Li Erpang felt that there was something wrong with the reaction of this doggy couple. Yilin had no choice but to explain, this was the way it was when I came here. Before you guys arrived, I went to the airship to take a look. When Li Erpang heard this, he was stunned. Is it possible that these aerostats cannot be used? There is no reason to be so bloody, right? This plot is wrong. It looks like it should work. However, what I want to ask is, does any of you know how to fly an aerospace boat? Yilin's question made Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, Wang Tiandi, and Li Erpang, three of them and one dog, suddenly widened their eyes, completely dumbfounded, and stayed where they were. A few minutes later, the complex team of Brave, Dog, Friend, and Blacksmith NPC followed the latter and boarded an aerospace boat closest to the port. Just like Yilin said, the situation in this military port is clearly a trap. There is no guard force or any level of defense. Not even pretending, so outrageous. Good guy, do you really think that all players are mentally retarded? Several people were in the cockpit, looking at the various mechanical buttons, luminous crystals, and floating steam meters in front of them, in silence. This is no longer a question of whether the port can be opened or not. They discovered that, let alone launching the aerostat, they didn't even understand how to successfully launch the aerostat. Isn't it just a turn-based game? Is it necessary to make the airship driving system so realistic? This is obviously a way to extend the life of the game, bastard. It can obviously be made up, down, forward, and backward without a bob. The brain operation must be done to look like the real thing. I really don't believe that Planner Dog has actually flown this kind of aerospace craft. Emperor Wang Tian. Although it is a bit unethical for Li Erpang to scold the game planner whenever he disagrees. But this time, although Li Erpang's words were rough, his reasoning was not rough. It also spoke out what everyone felt. Wouldn't it be very profitable to make a good game about farming monsters and using equipment, and to make a good normal game system? If we have to make this key system of piloting an aerostat so complicated, wouldn't it just discourage a large number of players? No wonder there are so few players in this game. I bet you, this is a garbage game that is so overwhelming that it can be called a ghost server. Brother Yilin, what should we do now? Ningyu had no choice but to look at Yilin. He also didn't expect that when things came to a close, the hope of escaping from the continent of Gaia was just around the corner. Unexpectedly, he was stumped by the crucial step of how to pilot the aerostat. Originally, Ningyu liked to think by himself. But he accidentally glanced at Yilin's face. He found that Yilin, as the trial protagonist, was still as calm as an old dog at this time, without any panic. While he silently gave the protagonist a thumbs up, he also wanted to hear the protagonist's opinion and see what the next step would be. What to do? Two lions abroad, there are players who wantonly massacre the city, control the power of the Holy See, and may come to kill them at any time. In the country of two lions, there is a boss, Homelos, whose level far exceeds that of the players. He leads a mighty army of knights from the two lions' kingdom and starts a carpet chase in the city. This situation, no matter where it is placed, can be said to be desperate. If it's an ordinary game, it's fine. If you die, you'll die. A second later, the golden light flashes, the resurrection point lights up, and you're a hero again. But this is a rubbish doom game where once you die, you delete your account and you can't come back again. No one wants to use their own life points to experience for themselves what a tragic scene it is to have their life points return to zero. Yilin naturally didn't panic. Not to mention that he has a mount that can cross mountains and seas of clouds. And his innate ability allows him to turn into a shadow and get into any gap, even the boss, which probably won't do anything to him. So Yilin has nothing to panic. Ningyu is really good at reading people. But these teammates. Yilin did not answer Ningyu's words. He looked at the blacksmith NPC who had been silent and asked, "Isn't that just right? You can drive an aerospace boat, right?" "Yo. Yes." Everyone's eyes lit up. This NPC followed him from Labu town to the ends of the earth and to the Two Lions Kingdom. Why did he come? Isn't it just to solve the protagonist's problems? This is a common routine in games. Otherwise, what's the point of following the NPC? It turns out that it is used here. Blacksmith Ge Lang was silent for a few seconds. In the slightly expectant gazes of everyone, he raised his eyelids and his eyes lit up. Won't. Yilin added, actually, there is one last way. Oh. You open your system panel. Then pull down. See if the logout button lights up. Li Erpang actually went to see it. He poked his finger in front of his face a few times. No response. Li Erpang looked puzzled and said, there's no light. Hopeless. Just wait to die. Ning Yu, Xiao Chuer, and Go rolled their eyes at the same time. Just when a few people were in a dilemma in the cockpit of the airship. Far away. Port. A voice as cold as iron came. Surrender. You are surrounded. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 367. As soon as I heard this voice. Except for Yilin and Ge Lang, who were extremely calm, everyone else was shocked. No need to say more. This voice is familiar to them. Boss, is here. Xiao Chuer tightened her grip on the small leather whip. She glanced at the others and couldn't help but make a suggestion. Why don't we give it a try? Ning Yu lowered his head and seriously considered Xiao Chuer's idea. In fact, not only Xiao Chuer, he also considered it. Logically speaking, in a turn-based game, a mere vehicle control system should not be made so complicated. This cost was wasted, and it was thankless. No player will like this set. Li Erpang is right, it's just a vehicle, going up and down above, isn't it the simplest thing to do? Simple and practical, players also buy it. The whole thing is so complicated, and it will dissuade a large number of players in vain, so why bother? Maybe, the control system of this aerospace craft is not as complicated as it seems on the surface. Ning listened to the boss's shouts in his right ear and looked at the mess of pressure gauges, panels, crystals, and fell into deep thought. He can't fly an aerostat. In fact, it is estimated that no one will open it. Even those who can fly helicopters in reality will be confused when they come to this game world and look at the mess of buttons. But maybe, with great force, miracles can happen? When Xiao Chuer and Ning Yu were thinking about whether to do it, Yilin smiled slightly, walked out of the cockpit, and boarded the deck. As he walked, he said, I advise you not to mess around. We have limited knowledge about this kind of vehicle. In case there is some kind of anti-theft system loaded on it, or something like one-click self-destruct, I might as well try to defeat the boss. When Yilin's words were heard in other people's ears, it was as if he was ignorant of the bounds of the world. They have also seen boss. They are treated as human beings, and no one can see the boss level. In other words, boss is a level crushing for them. This kind of boss, like the Moonlight Wolf King, definitely cannot be defeated in a short while. In addition, Homeros, the boss, is a humanoid boss and cannot be compared to the Wolf King's IQ. But what Yilin said made sense. What if it really explodes? Wouldn't it mean that everyone ascended to the sky and landed in a box? Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer looked at each other. Yilin's words made them give up their stupid move. It's strange, why can the protagonist be so calm? Is it true that at this time, we can only rely on the protagonist halo? The two were silent. But the same thought flashed through his mind. For a while, they couldn't figure out how the protagonist could escape when there were hostile forces inside and outside. As long as the fate of the protagonist in this trial is not a sadistic style of being tortured to death, the protagonist should have a way to break the situation. Cheating. Protagonist Halo? The villain suddenly came to his senses and let them go. While thinking about various possibilities, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer followed Yilin and walked onto the deck. Li Erpang, Wang Tiandi, and blacksmith Ge Lang followed behind. The moment you step onto the deck, others suddenly felt their scalps numb. I saw that the port, which was almost the size of a football field, was densely packed with knights who were armed to the teeth and lined up in neat rows, filling the entire military port with water. Let's not talk about whether we can beat them. Even if those dense mobs can be eliminated one by one in a turn-based manner, their supply reserves will definitely not be able to keep up. Turn-based is nothing more than taking drugs, using skills, and rationally allocating tactics. This is the essence of turn-based. In the face of the human sea tactics, unless Ningyu and others can form an absolute crushing advantage in level and equipment like bullying children, everything will be in vain. It's over. Li Erpang's face turned pale. Even if I use my ultimate move, I can't do it. The number of these mobs is outrageous. Not to mention, in front of the army of the two Lion Kingdoms, a blonde, blue-eyed, stern-faced knight of the country was standing straight with his back straight, holding a big sword in both hands. Here it is. The big skull sign above his head is very conspicuous. Homeros. LV? Homeros's voice was not loud. He also didn't use any megaphone-like props. But his voice reached the ears of Yilin and others clearly, word for word. This should be a function similar to the regional channel in the game, right? Li Erpang thought so based on experience. Other teammates are equipped with weapons. Guzi also silently took out his fighting claw and put it on. Only Yilin stood silently at the bow of the boat, leaving a mysterious figure behind her teammates. At this time, as the protagonist, what choice will Yilin make? Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were very curious. They are now left with only 3 options. 1. Hard mad. 2. Jump into the sea. 3. Set sail. It's not like there's no way out. Needless to say, with the mighty group of knights and the big boss who stepped forward with a max presence, this choice was a narrow escape. As for jumping into the sea, if it were an ordinary sea, just jump. But this is the Sea of Clouds. What is the Sea of Clouds? It's a cloud. Li Erpang and others have been around in the game world for a while. I have never heard of anyone being so outrageous as to be able to swim in a sea of clouds. What's the difference between putting on chicken wings and taking off on the spot? But they can't fly. So jump into the sea and pass. No one is interested in knowing what is underneath the sea of clouds. After all, this is just a game setting. It's a game world on the clouds. How fantasy, how magnificent, how magical. Falling into the sea of clouds is similar to the magma, spikes, traps, rollers and other terrains in many games. If you fall into the sea, you will definitely die, so there is nothing to worry about. As for sailing, for Ningyu and Xiao Chuer, that was a no-brainer. Once the situation is not right, even if there is a risk of the aerostat exploding on the spot, one operation must be tried first before proceeding. Let's first look at the protagonist and decide. Ningyu decided to wait and see what happens. But once the protagonist has a tendency to lose his temper, they will turn around and fly an airship without hesitation. Yilin looked down from a high position and looked at Hermelos from a distance. Boss, it's not like he hasn't killed him before. He can even poke out the Moonlight Wolf King's anus and kill the boss by leapfrogging. For Yilin, there is nothing to be afraid of. Only surrender. Yilin suddenly said something carelessly. Li Erpang, what the hell? Ningyu, what? Xiao Chuer was stunned, did you say the wrong line? Emperor Wang Tian. Yilin shook his head, I suddenly had a bolder idea. Several people got off the airship. Raise your hands to show that you will not resist. The player did not take the initiative to attack, and Hermelos remained motionless, as if he had no intention of taking action. Ningyu thought silently, it really deserves to be a country of knights. Is this what is called chivalry? Surrender without killing? But they didn't dare to let down their guard. In case the other party does something unscrupulous, they must turn around and return to the aerospace boat at any time. There is always a way out. Just as a few people cautiously approached the army of knights from the two lion kingdoms, the distance was getting closer and closer. Homelos, who had been pretending to be in place without any movement, finally moved. Click click click. The heavy armor made rhythmic footsteps on the ground. Homeros took a few steps forward without drawing his weapon. But he suddenly knelt down on one knee towards a few people from a distance. Long time no see, my teacher. Everyone, including Yilin, was slightly startled. Blacksmith Ge Lang, who was behind the team, let out a long sigh. You have grown up, Homeros. Boom. A dirty plate was thrown in front of the iron fence. The light was dim in the dark cell. Stretching out his hand, he could only barely make out the shape of his 5 fingers. The texture on the fingers cannot be seen clearly. An old jailer threw the dirty plate on the ground like garbage, then without looking back, drunkenly breathing the smell of alcohol, he walked towards the only point in the distance again. Walking in the light. There is a chandelier made of inferior crystal. The crystal is full of impurities and is not very valuable at first glance. Food. As soon as Li Erpang heard the sound of the plate being thrown, he stepped forward and groped in the darkness. Ningyu and Xiao Chu leaned in the corner of the cell respectively, opening their eyes slightly, but making no movement. It's moldy bread. As soon as Li Erpang picked up the food in the basin and took a bite, he spat out "ah, bah" and cursed loudly. I want to complain. Complain. You are abusing players. I want to complain. Aren't you NPCs played by real people? Your attitude is too bad, right? How come there are games like this that abuse players in this day and age? Don't let me get out alive. I swear I will sue you until you go bankrupt. You guys should pay me a huge amount of mental damages, you bastards. The shaky jailer paused. He heard Li Erpang's flirtatious words. But I don't know why. The old jailer snorted coldly and was too lazy to talk nonsense with the prisoners. He walked straight to the table and chairs under the crystal lamp 100 meters away and sat down. A few seconds later, he dozed off, and his snoring rippled wildly in the long and narrow corridor. After cursing loudly for a while, seeing that the damn jailer NPC had no intention of killing him, Li Erpang could only throw away the pieces of moldy bread and go back to the corner to sulk. But soon, Li Erpang chuckled again. Fortunately I hid the inventory. As Li Erpang spoke, he took out the cooking that he had put in before from the props, grilled the wolf leg meat, and ate it happily. In fact, it's not just Li Erpang. Ningyu and Xiao Chu also prepared a lot of food in their props. Anyway, there are a lot of grids, so you're prepared and it doesn't occupy too much space. At this time, food is not the most serious issue. Why is this guy eating besides eating? In the darkness, Xiao Chu looked up and glanced at Fatty Li, who was eating hard in the corner, feeling very helpless. This is the cheat around the protagonist, but his defense is indeed quite high, so he's not too useless. Ningyu quietly moved to Xiao Chu's side. Li Erpang made a lot of noise while eating, and he didn't notice the whispers between Ningyu and Xiao Chu. But don't you think it's strange that this guy is getting a little ridiculously fat these days? He didn't seem that fat when he first left the novice village, right? Ningyu shook his head. Forget it, let's forget about the supporting role for now. What I find strange now is that Yilin actually expected it. When we surrendered, they didn't kill us. It must be for the sake of blacksmith Ge Lang. Xiao Chuer's voice was a little louder. She flicked the short hair beside her ears and said with a smile, "It turns out that he ran out of Novice Village and has been following us. The blacksmith NPC is actually used here. Should it really be called a game world? Everything has a mission." Ning Yu also smiled and said very calmly, "Since blacksmith Ge Lang is the key NPC, this wave should be stable." "You think so, brother Yilin?" Air. Xiao Chuer, Yilin. Li Erpang. In the cell. An awkward silence passed. "I don't know when it started. In the cell that originally housed 4 people, only Li Erpang, Ning Yu, and Xiao Chuer were left. That guy is gone again. What the hell? Again." The 3 of them spoke at the same time and cursed loudly. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 368. Night. The cold moonlight fell on this ancient city. The kingdom of 2 lions, the inner city wall, the royal city. Various plants of various colors are scattered in the courtyard. Knights in heavy armor, holding torches, patrolled the courtyard of the royal city. On the bluestone floor, you can occasionally see the texture of time densely spread on it, and the gaps are covered with mosses similar to moss. Click click click. The knights were wearing heavy armor and stepped on the bluestone ground, leaving behind a series of heavy footsteps. Under the firelight, slender shadows were left behind each knight. Strangely, the blazing torch did not sway at all, but the shadows of the knights swayed slightly from time to time, as if the dimness was disturbed by the wind. There is no wind around. There was no verbal communication between the knights, as if they couldn't bear to break the rare silence. In the courtyard, only the sound of staggered footsteps became the only sound here. In the royal palace, a grand banquet was being held. The melodious palace music and the melodious singing of the singer came from inside the royal city, which was pleasant to the ears and refreshing. The knights couldn't help but imagine how luxurious and enjoyable the banquet in the royal city was. Swish swish. Click, click, click. In a corner of the courtyard, there is a training ground for knights. The training ground is covered with fine sand. In the sand, there are many traces of the knights' training, which are messy. Around the training ground, dummies were neatly set up. The dummy is also covered in strong armor, and the style of the full coverage armor is roughly the same as the standard armor of the Knights of the Kingdom of 2 Lions. The only difference is that the Knights of the Double Lion Kingdom have their proud double lion sword and shield code tattooed on their chests, while the armor on these dummies has a big word enemy on their chests. Each armed dummy has sword marks of different depths interlaced into various patterns. Some of these sword marks are deep, some are shallow, some are long, some are short, some are new and some are old. If you observe carefully, you may be able to roughly visualize the angle and force of each sword strike by the person who left these sword marks from these sword marks. That dog had a lot of fun. Yilin is not jealous. He just passed by quietly inside the royal city. The atmosphere of the palace banquet was very luxurious. Perhaps it was because of blacksmith Ge Lang that the king of the Twin Lion Kingdom, who was middle-aged and fat and seemed to have no palace, sat high on the throne, red-faced and drunk, staring at blacksmith Ge Lang with a lustful expression. Is it because of the appearance of blacksmith Ge Lang, the sword master, that they have no time to pay attention to us? I'll put you in jail first and talk about it later when you have time. After Yilin quietly slipped out of the so-called highly guarded cell, she couldn't believe what she saw along the way. Aren't they worried about the prisoners in the prison escaping? The prison cells in the Twin Lion Kingdom are indeed somewhat special. The use of any God-given skills is prohibited. But the player's other functions, props, and talents are not affected at all. Strange. I don't know if it's a bug in the game. According to Yilin's understanding, some games seem a bit cruel to kill red name players in full view of the public. So the red player was dragged into the cell and locked up, completely blocking skills and props. He was locked up for 2035 days, and the euphemistic name was that he would be unlocked after 2035 days. In fact, it was no different from deleting his account. The prison cell setting in the Kingdom of Two Lions is probably similar to this. Yulin sneaked out, just like walking in the back garden of her own house, she could run out at any time. In fact, if you think about it carefully, if Yulin swaggers out of the Two Lions Kingdom and then finds a leveling point, no matter how awesome Emperor Songpope is, he will never be able to find a player in the vast leveling area. But this is a bit unkind. How could he be the kind of person who would cheat his teammates? Yulin temporarily gave up her plan of leaving her teammates and escaping alone. Taking a step back, if Yulin really escapes, Ningyu's skill "I stand here and you hit me" is also a natural skill. It is not difficult to dig a hole in the cell and get out. Let's see and then talk. In fact, Yulin thought more about it. Leaving the continent of Gaia was not just to avoid a hostile force like the Holy See. During these days of being trapped in the game, Yulin's team traveled through more than 85% of the Gaia continent. On the map, there is not much left of the Mist Zone. The highest level of monsters in the leveling area is only LV32. It is far from the level limit of this game. If you want to enter a more advanced leveling area, there is no other way except to find a way to get an airship to leave. They almost snatched the aerostat, but no one knew how to fly it. So it would be of no use to actually grab an aerostat. While Yulin was thinking, she transformed into a shadow and stalked in the darkness. The two skill combinations of following as a shadow and shadow killing are very suitable for sneaking. Along the way, no one noticed Yulin's existence. Time passed by minute by minute. Yulin came to a corner of the courtyard. This looks like a training ground. Is there anyone? Suddenly, Yulin, who was strolling in the courtyard with a shopping mentality, suddenly stopped breathing. The air around seemed to suddenly become heavy. Of course, air is air and cannot suddenly become heavier. Yulin's eyes narrowed slightly, looking forward in the darkness. In the empty training ground, under the moonlight, a blond man wearing heavy armor stood with a straight back and a sword in both hands. It's Homeros. That LV, boss. Homeros remained motionless. Under the moonlight, it looks like a sculpture, with a perfect profile. The posture of looking up at the moon at a 45-degree angle gives people a sense of direct gaze with silent pretense. Finally found you. Yulin thought. He did not dare to be careless, so he cautiously entered the sandy ground of the training ground and circled around Homelos. Seeing that there were no changes in Homelos' movements, expression, and breathing, Yulin became bolder. The level of Homeros is beyond imagination. Although Yulin did not have a head-on confrontation with Homelos on the city wall during the day, the sense of oppression that Homelos brought to Yulin in that short span of time was extraordinary. Although this pressure can be explained as an illusion caused by hierarchical suppression. But for some reason, Yulin would rather believe that it was because of a certain trait in the other person that made her feel that this boss is unusually awesome. What Yulin is even more worried about is that the effects of his innate skills will be weakened at an epic level if the level gap is too large. My health is too thin. If I hadn't attacked in non-combat mode, I probably wouldn't have been able to withstand the boss's sword. But as long as he can't break my stealth mode, he's just an ordinary boss. You can give it a try. Yulin didn't dare to be careless. Boss and boss's physique cannot be generalized. Yulin tortured the Moonlight Wolf King all night long. Although he was a boss, he was at best a small boss in the low-level leveling area, just LV25. Besides, the boss is pregnant and has a weak butt. In front of Yulin, Homeros was just standing there indifferently, but it gave Yulin a feeling that she couldn't make a move. Thump, thump, thump. Yulin's heart rate suddenly soared. He could even hear his own heartbeat, very clearly. The hands holding the question mark divine sword tightly broke out into a thin layer of sweat. I'm scared. No. This game is so interesting. Yulin suddenly smiled. Smile and be kind. Following like a shadow. Shadow kill. Poison quenching dagger. A green dagger went straight to Homeros's head. Homeros. Boss, is green. But Yulin had no intention of making Homelo's life easy. In the past, Yulin used to wait for the poison damage to start to rise before launching combos. But this time, because Homelos's level was too high, that stance put too much pressure on Yulin. Yulin's shadow almost touched the back of Homelo's head and threw the so-called throwing skill. Before the poisoning damage had time to float, Yulin's follow-up combos had already arrived unexpectedly. 2 sword style. Concentrate. Venom assassination. Breath work. Shadow shattering blow. This seemingly simple sword contains all the abilities Yulin currently possesses. How do you say something? All things are unified. It doesn't matter how many combos you have. There are countless combos, even if they only combine into one move in the end, as long as the damage is enough, then this move will be the most powerful combo. Yulin did not pursue the special effects of Kum's 99, he only pursued a one-hit kill. -1. The first thing that floated up from Homelo's forehead was poison damage. Immediately afterwards. -97. The number that floated up almost immediately after the poisoning damage was only 2 digits. But Yulin was overjoyed. Defense broken. But because Yulin did not enter the combat state, the opponent's health bar did not show up. But for Yulin, as long as it can cause damage and break defense, that's enough. Homeros, who was looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, had his cold gaze condensed. The moment the damage number popped up, his seemingly cumbersome two-handed sword suddenly shook back and swung out a terrifying sword shadow. The straight moonlight was interrupted for a moment. If someone looked from the side at this moment, they would see such a magical scene. The long sword swept across the moonlight, and for a moment, the shadow of the sword actually cut off the moon's light. Hiss. Yulin's scalp instantly became numb, as if she had undergone a complete electrotherapy spa. He did not naively throw a second set of combos at Homeros's head, but decisively launched Shadow Kill and Shadow Follower, transformed into an imperceptible shadow, and dived into the ground again in a swish. Completely disappeared. -1. -1. -1. -1. On Homero's forehead, green numbers popped up one by one. The aloof knight of the country, the sword master, the iceberg god, the dream lover of thousands of girls, the lifelong enemy of thousands of unmarried men in the Twin Lion Kingdom, that man with countless titles, turned around and looked at the empty space. Behind his back, his expression finally changed for a moment. Homeros frowned slightly, frowning into an arc. He raised his head and looked at the sky, as if waiting for something. Yulin knows. The boss is waiting for the balance. A scale that symbolizes fairness. Those are the rules of the game world of Auranos. All battles must follow the turn system. The level gap is too big, and this heavy armor obviously has a high defense. My combo that can kill the priest of Novice Village in seconds only caused a double-digit damage to him. This is still the effect of that set of breathing techniques. If it weren't for that mysterious set of breathing techniques, maybe even Homelo's defense might not be able to be broken through with the sword strike. This strike had allowed Yulin to roughly deduce the level gap between the two. Like a chasm, it cannot be crossed in a short time. But can break defense. Can cause harm. That's enough. Yulin held her breath and concentrated in the shadow, quickly changed her position, and came behind Homelos again, preparing to launch the second set of combos. But right now, a sudden change occurred. Homeros seemed to notice something. He snorted coldly. The sword master's realm, the selfless realm. His. In an instant. The cold Hermelos suddenly lit up like an LED light bulb. What the hell? Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 369. As everyone knows, the reason why a game is that it follows certain rules. For example, mana must be consumed to release skills. If the health bar is empty, you will die. These are the rules of the game. Once these rules are violated, it is cheating. In the Uranos game world where Yulin is located, the biggest rule of battle rules is turn system. Under the turn-based system, you have to strike with a knife, and I have to strike with a knife. Both the boss and the player have to jump repeatedly in both sides of the field, going back and forth and trying to fool each other. This is the charm of the turn-based game. After entering the battle state, a halo representing fairness will fall from the sky, covering both sides, and forcefully pulling the player and the boss into a turn-based battle. Yulin is a player, cheating is normal. Unexpectedly, boss also cheated. Yulin was shocked. Perhaps it is because of the fixed routine of boss. Before releasing the skill, you must shout the name of the skill to show the boss's style. When Homelos released the skill that seemed to be a sure kill move, Sword Master Realm, Selfless Realm, a melee professional, Knight Homelos actually released a skill that was enough to blind the Emperor of Heaven. The incandescent light of the eyes comes. Immediately afterwards, with Homelos as the center, a circle of light suddenly spread, dispersing the surrounding darkness and completely cutting off the moonlight falling from the night sky. Hiss. In the shadow, the moment Yulin saw the circle of light, she subconsciously shouted, "Hum." Without a trace of hesitation, Yulin was about to use the second set of combos. Just before the halo of light was about to fall on her, the strange shadow quickly retreated, lurking deep into the darkness further away. Middle. The light is chasing, the shadow is fleeing. The LED light erupted by Homeros spread quickly and followed the shadow. Yulin's lurking shadow twisted and spun on the sand and stone, moving in a snake-like shape and running away crazily. The spread of the aperture only lasts for a moment. Fortunately, Yulin's shadow kill not only has a latent function after being activated, but also has an acceleration effect. Before the shadow was about to be caught up by the aperture, Yulin narrowly escaped from the scope of the aperture. It felt like being in a snowy mountain with a vast avalanche chasing after her, but almost frostbitten Yulin's butt. Call. Yulin hid in the darkness again. The short chase made Yulin feel like she had run a life and death marathon. She was soaked to the skin and took a deep breath. This boss, without respecting martial ethics, actually cheats. The aperture flashed away. Yulin looked at Homeros again. I found that the bright light disappeared like an illusion. At some point, Homeros's gorgeous longsword was unsheathed, and he held it tightly with both hands. The tip of the sword pointed diagonally at the ground, and gently made a small pit in the soft sand. Homeros's head was no longer green. Poison damage disappears. Even in a non-combat state, Yulin's skills have a duration. It's not so exaggerated as to keep green forever. After the boss loses blood and is interrupted, according to the rules, it should be restored to full health soon. Is this the true strength of high-level boss? Yulin secretly thought, compared with Homeros, there is no difference between the Moonlight Wolf King and a pregnant Chihuahua. The gap is too big. In just a few seconds, Yulin already had a clear idea of the strength of both sides. This is not just a simple level gap, but even cheating may not be easily bridged. Although the aura released by Homeros has disappeared. But Yulin's lips curled up. In the darkness, he turned into a shadow and moved again, circling Hermelos. Hermelos slowly closed his cold eyes. As Yulin's position changed, the sword in his hand moved accordingly. The tip of the sword marked a small pit in the sand, and it strangely chased Yulin's position, paddling slowly as well. Yulin continued to circle. 3 circles to the left, 3 to the right. Homero suddenly opened his eyes. At that moment, the surrounding air suddenly cooled down, as cold as a knife. The surrounding space was eerily quiet. Yulin's shadow moved without making any sound, and the tip of Homero's sword scratched on the sand without making any sound. In the dead silence, Yulin and this boss confronted each other in this strange form. 3 circles to the right, 3 circles to the left. When the sand next to Homelo's was cut into a deep circle by the tip of the sword, the boss finally spoke, with a sullen face and said, "Are you done yet?" "Not yet." In the dark. Yulin suddenly said something. But when Yulin spoke, she changed her position faster. As a result, Yulin's 2-word words sounded erratic, as if coming from all directions. Under the moonlight, the upturned sword eyebrow on the left side of the powerful boss Homero's twitched slightly. The angle of tilt is larger. Homero's turned his head sharply to the left. There was no one there. But the position where Homelo's was looking was the place where Yulin made the sound a second ago. Sword Master's realm, selfless realm. It seems like it should be a skill that infinitely magnifies perception of danger. Unfortunately, my ability is to reduce the sense of existence by 100%. As long as you can't see me with your own eyes, even if the perception is spread to the maximum, boss will not be able to detect my specific location. But when the tip of his sword moved, he should have noticed something. Yulin is still thinking of ways to test the limits of Homero's. After a moment, Yulin suddenly realized, could it be the legendary murderous aura? But how can such a mysterious thing be simulated in just an online game? Although Yulin's guess is a bit outrageous. But after eliminating all possibilities, Yulin only came to this conclusion. The two were in a stalemate for a while. Yulin's ability, which was as weird as cheating, really caused enough trouble for Homelo's. You can tell a little bit about it from his twitching brow. If this incident were to spread, it would probably shock the entire Twin Lion Kingdom. In the hearts of the people, the invincible sword master Homero's, a man whose every move was included in the textbooks of the Knight Academy, would frown in front of an assassin. It was simply ridiculous. No one would believe it if I told you. Of course, Yulin still believed it. He knew how much he could stimulate the boss. A majestic sword master, a high-level boss, walked around in place for a long time. According to the formula, the psychological shadow area, forget it, it should be quite big anyway. Finally, Yulin stopped circling. After a few seconds, Sword Master Hermelo seemed to sense something, and the rotating sword tip stopped. The sandy area of the training ground finally no longer has to suffer. Behind Homero's, Yulin popped out of the shadow with a whoosh, and slowly stepped out of the darkness. The moonlight is like a wash, draped on both of them. When Yulin walked out of the darkness, Hermelos turned around slowly, his cold eyes staring at Yulin's footsteps without any emotion. Step. 2 steps. 3 steps. Yulin walked very slowly. But he was steadily approaching Homero's. Since Yulin appeared, Hermelos was not in a hurry. He didn't ask any questions. He just stared at Yulin's steps without blinking. The atmosphere instantly became strange and ambiguous. 4 steps. 5 steps. Suddenly, the tip of Homero's sword trembled slightly. The amplitude was so small that it was difficult to detect. Yulin smiled and stopped. The 2 daggers in his hands clap. The 2 blood-like daggers merged again in the palm of his hand. Yulin quickly pulled out an almost transparent blood-colored long knife from his palm like noodles. With a tremble of his wrist, he swept out a clear streak on the sand in front of him. Of ravines. This is a line. The moment Homero saw the line on the ground, the brow that had not twitched for a long time began to twitch again. It seems like this is the limit of your sword master domain. Although you hit it well with your ice face, your eyes looked at this location 3 times in total. Although it may not be very accurate, it should be here, almost. Homeros. As Yulin said this, he quickly took 3 steps back. Your reaction makes me more convinced that in order to prevent you from deliberately conserving your strength, it will be safer to retreat a little further. After taking 3 steps back, Yulin quickly used the bloody long knife to draw a second line under her feet. After doing all the above, Yulin showed a kind smile on his face and said softly, "Now, we can have a good chat." "No need." Hermelos stopped the twitching of his eyebrows and shook his head. There was no fluctuation in his eyes between opening and closing them. The hand holding the sword was as steady as a mountain, motionless. "Is necessary." As if by magic, Yulin quickly transformed the long knife used to draw the line into the shape of a pair of daggers by clapping her hands together. 2 translucent blood-colored daggers flew freely in the palms of both hands, round and unimpeded. While skillfully playing with the 2-handed dagger, Yulin looked fearlessly into the eyes of Homeros with hidden murderous intent, and continued, "There is no need to go around in circles when talking between smart people. In my opinion, as you it's rare for Master's blacksmith Galang to leave Labu town and come here. It's unreasonable for you to come to this deserted place instead of attending the banquet. In my opinion, rather than saying that you are unsociable or pretentious, it is better to say that you are waiting for me. You saw my abilities on the city wall. You guessed that I had a way to escape from the prison in the 2 Lions Kingdom. You deliberately chose this time and place to wait for me to come to your door. Since you chose to wait for me here, there are only 2 possibilities. One is to kill me here, and the other is, to have a conversation. Kill me, and that should be enough when I surrender. There is no need to choose this place, unless it's a bloody plot deliberately set by the game." Yulin didn't say the second half of the sentence. After all, no matter how intelligent Homeros is, he can't escape his identity as an NPC, and Yulin doesn't need to point it out. So, it can only be a conversation. Homeros sheathed his sword with a cold expression and shook his head slightly. "You are not qualified yet." "Yet." Boom. Without saying a word, Yulin threw a smoke bomb at his feet. Homelos slowly typed a question mark. This situation, this scene, is so familiar. This is how Yulin ran away on the city wall not long ago. Homelos thought for a long time, but he still couldn't figure out how Yulin disappeared. The same scene once again played out in front of Homeros. Homeros did not move. After a while, it took about as long as a cigarette. Yulin appeared strangely behind Homelos again, causing Homelos to have difficulty maintaining his posture and had to turn around again. "What do you mean?" Yulin inexplicably escaped for several minutes, leaving Homelos puzzled. Yulin smiled slightly and spread his palms. In his palms, there was a lump of brown hair. Homeros's everlasting expression finally changed. "That is the king of the kingdom of 2 lions, mustache." Yulin's smile did not change, and with a flick of her palm, a certain king's beard fell on the sand. "Maybe I can't help you much now, but there are hundreds of thousands of people in the 2 lion kingdom. I can come when I want, leave when I want, kill whoever I want, and cut off whoever I want. And you, the sword master, the great knight of the country, the iceberg god, the dream lover of thousands of girls, how many people can he protect? In other words." Yulin smiled kindly and said, "I return what you said not long ago. Your country is surrounded by me. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 370. Negotiation. Yulin was playing with the dagger with a smile on her face. "Explain." Although Homeros was being attacked by Yulin, there was no anger on his expression. He truly deserves to be a national-level iceberg male god. I want a fully functional aerostat and a team of people who know how to operate an aerostat. Good. Homeros agreed readily. Almost as soon as Yulin stated the conditions, she agreed without hesitation. The speed was so fast that Yulin was stunned for a moment, thinking that she heard wrongly. What did you say? Good. You agree now? Ken. Well, to be honest, I thought you would resist a little bit. Just when Yulin and Big Boss Homelos were asking and answering questions in this strange negotiation atmosphere, there was another ding in Yulin's ear without any surprise. The sound is crisp and pleasant. Ding. Accept the side mission, Hermelo's compromise. The prompt stuck for a while. Complete the side mission, Homeros compromise. Acquired temporary permission to use the intermediate aerostat Faraday. Acquired temporary command authority for the Shuangshi Kingdom's aerospace craft pilot unit. This side mission. Before he could refresh the content, Yulin completed it at the speed of light. Accepting a task and completing it occur at the same moment. Isn't this kind of mission a temporary task just for the sake of going through the motions? A strange idea came to Yulin's mind. But no matter what, since the system prompt pops up, it means that Yulin's bold idea has been realized. Through peaceful negotiations, emotion, and reason, Hormelos was persuaded to lend an aerostat, and a team of pilots who knew how to operate the aerostat had command authority. In fact, it is not difficult for Yulin and others to grab an aerostat. The difficulty is, no one knows how to drive it. By making this vehicle control system so complex, it is clear that this game is deliberately trying to embarrass players. Yulin stood opposite Homeros, far away, and read the prompt several times. There doesn't seem to be anything fishy about it. System certification. God oversees it, there is nothing wrong with it. Yulin closed the panel. So, goodbye. Yulin said tentatively and prepared to leave. Ah. What Yulin didn't expect was that Homeros, who had a sullen face from beginning to end, suddenly seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, and his eternal expression relaxed slightly. Damn it! This guy actually smiled. Yulin, who was slowly retreating into the darkness, suddenly stopped. Before Yulin could react, Homeros grasped the sheathed sword and took a step forward after Yulin took a step back. The moment Homeros made a move, the slightly relaxed air around him became heavy again. Homeros' step was like stepping on Yulin's chest, giving Yulin the illusion of being so depressed that it was difficult to breathe. This step is also stuck within what Yulin considers to be a safe distance. Neither far nor near, one step more is not too much, one step less is not too much. Homeros did smile. Although the corners of his mouth raised slightly, Yulin could see clearly now that he was indeed smiling. Yulin suddenly had a bad feeling. This is an agreement. I have given you what you asked for. If you break the contract, I will kill you to the end of the world. Homeros smiled and said this. But it was obvious that he was smiling, but Yulin felt in a daze that Homeros was much more terrifying at this moment than when he was not smiling. You better, stop laughing. Yulin shook her head. Homeros in the moonlight, his heavy armor reflecting the moonlight. After a moment of silence, he said softly, it seems that you really don't understand this world very well. What's the meaning? Leave Gaia, where can you go? Yulin was stunned. Seeing Yulin's expression fluctuate, Hermelos quickly stopped smiling and continued, it seems that the prophecy is true. Prophecy. Yulin once again heard this powerful word from the NPC's mouth. It seems to be the background setting of player. In many games, to increase the player's sense of immersion, identities such as the summoned, the chosen one, and the brave from another world are often used to increase the player's sense of immersion and mission sense, allowing players to have a more perfect immersive experience. It was nothing at first, but as soon as the NPC said it, no matter which player he was, he would instantly feel superior. Yulin didn't interrupt. Homelos continued, in the cloud calendar, in the year 3333, there will be a brave crossing over from another world to save this world. I didn't believe it at first. Now, I don't believe it either. Homero's sharp-edged features were as cold as iron. I saw the boss whose skills were like using a plug-in, Homelos, slowly raising the sword in his hand in front of Yulin. The air around him trembled slightly the moment Homeros raised his sword, making a clanging sound like a sharp sword shaking. Yulin's expression changed. Isn't it just an NPC? Does it need to give such outrageous appearance special effects? When Yulin was surprised, Homeros said with a firm tone and sonorous words, "What I believe in is only my divine sword. My one sword is enough to eliminate all disasters. If one sword is not enough, then two swords. I know you are awesome, so tell me about the worldview." Yulin thought. But Yulin honestly took another step back. "I'm afraid that the boss, Homelos, who doesn't have martial ethics, will kill him with one sword." Yulin took a deep breath without interrupting. After making the declaration of invincibility, Homeros quickly put down his long sword, stood up with the sword again, took the initial pose, and changed his words, "But I believe that you do not belong to this world. So what if you see it? Want to give you an award?" Yulin pouted. Yulin originally wanted Homeros to speak quickly. But it has been a long time since Yulin escaped from prison, and until the confrontation with Hermelos, no other guards came to help. Yulin wondered whether some specific hidden plot was triggered, so even if Hermelos, no matter how long-winded Melos was, he could only listen patiently and wait patiently. Sure enough, according to the rules of the game, Hermelos still revealed the background of the worldview that Yulin had never had time to inquire about. Legend has it that the gods created this world with 7 giant beasts: Earth, Gaia; Wind, Ialos; Fire, Boros; Bing, Pagos; Light, Aurora; Water, Poseidon. After Homeros finished speaking, his movements did not change, but he fell into a brief silence. Yulin waited for a short while, but did not see Homelos speak, so she took the initiative, counted 3 times on her fingers, and said doubtfully, 7 giant beasts, but you only said 6. It does not matter. Homeros shook his head slowly. Damn it! It doesn't matter that the difference between 7 and 6 is so outrageous. Yulin always felt that Homeros was hiding something. But the boss holds one of the 49 Excalibur swords in the game. It is so powerful that Yulin can't poke it in, nor can he pry open Homeros' mouth. He can only temporarily let the boss say it's not important. Wait, Gaia, the giant beast. Yulin suddenly took a breath, with a slightly shocked expression. You mean, the land under our feet is what the giant beast god transformed into after his death? Dead, Hermelos said in shock. It is alive. Yulin was shocked. Don't be surprised. He never expected that the worldview of this game would be such an unconstrained setting. In the vast sea of clouds, the 7-headed beast gods transformed into land, and countless people built cities and gathering places on the backs of the beast gods. From the beginning of entering the game, Yulin walked from Gaia south to Gaia north, and from Gaia west to Gaia east. She never thought that this vast journey would only happen on the back of a giant beast. What a magnificent worldview this is. The giant beast is moving all the time. In the vast sea of clouds, there are no road signs. Even if you have a ship, you can't find other giant beasts. In the end, you can only run out of fuel and become a giant monster floating in the depths of the sea of clouds. Death ship, or, falling into the abyss. Yulin finally understood. It turned out that this was what Homeros had in mind. After Homelos told the truth, Yulin, who knew that he had been tricked, laughed angrily and said, "You mean, you are only responsible for providing aerostats and people who can drive them, and you will not give them to me a road sign leading to other giant beasts? What's the difference between you doing this and being a hooligan?" "Ah." Homeros lowered his head and chuckled. He also seemed to know that he was being a rogue. But he still played it. After laughing, Hermelos looked calm. "To Lion's Kingdom, 100,000 people, you will not suffer any loss if you exchange it for an aerostat. But if you breach the contract..." Homeros did not finish what he said next. When this iceberg god, sword master, great knight of the country, and the dream lover of millions of lion girls stopped talking, Homelos let go slightly, and the exquisite two-handed sword strangely rebounded an inch. With a clang, the sword light leaked from the scabbard, making the surrounding moonlight suddenly dim. That ray of light also stung Yilin's eyes. Yilin couldn't help but narrow her eyes. The threat contained in it is self-evident. Yilin was silent. Homeros's meaning is clear. "I can give you the aerostat and the people. The condition is that you do not assassinate any of the 100,000 people in the Twin Lion Kingdom." Yilin also agreed. "Here's the deal." Yilin also completed the side mission and received the reward he deserved, and he couldn't do anything fake. As for what Homeros said was the road sign that guided the airship to other giant beasts, that was another matter, and it had nothing to do with this matter. But if Yilin breaks the contract and uses the same method again to threaten Homeros, the super boss, to hand over the road sign, he will most likely bear the wrath of a high-ranking boss. Although Gaia is big, as long as Yilin can't run away, Homelos will catch up to her sooner or later, so it's not worth it. The price/performance ratio is not high either. After Yilin figured out the key, she smiled, but was a little depressed. "No wonder you knew I was good at escaping and locked me in that so-called deeply guarded cell. It turns out everything was as you expected. Let me think about it, it's nothing more than killing people. That makes sense. The right time, the right location, the right people, plus what happened during the day, no one will doubt it. Haha, I thought it was strange before. If everyone in this country abided by the so-called chivalry and acted like that, this country would not be able to survive today. Some people are sinister and some people are stupid. This is only reasonable. There are no quiet years. There are only people carrying the burden forward." Yilin said to herself. The end. Yilin opened her eyes again and looked at Homeros. "Tell me, who to kill?" Homeros seemed to have expected Yilin to ask this question. The palm of his hand shook. A hidden weapon flew towards Yilin. Yilin didn't panic. After all, Homeros's level was there. If he really wanted to attack Yilin, there was no need to resort to such small tricks. Moreover, the hidden weapon came unexpectedly, and Yilin easily caught it. Yilin discovered that what she received in her hand was a mini crystal. Only about the size of a fingernail. Homelos explained, "Crush the message crystal. Be concise and to the point." Of course, as a player, even without Hermelos' explanation, Yilin could still reveal the corresponding item information. Yilin smiled and pinched the crystal in her palm into powder. In the blink of an eye, a faint ray of light floated up from the message crystal that was crushed into powder, and penetrated into Yilin's eyebrows. In this game world, crystals have many functions and endless uses. I don't know how it was made. Yilin always feels that behind these crystal functions is not just a simple program. At the top of the Holy See branch in Port Izida, Yilin looked at the defensive formation pattern composed of 7 crystals. From the complicated and obscure patterns, Yilin seemed to have grasped some secret, but he could not figure it out. This game world is really, really big. Yilin thought about it, feeling a little happy for some reason. He feels that this game is becoming more and more interesting. Although the original main goal leave this game world has not changed. But during this journey, Yulin gradually became less anxious to leave. During the journey deep into this world, Yulin discovered a lot of the deeper fun of the game and became increasingly addicted to it. As a player, isn't it normal to be addicted to games? While thinking about it, the light that penetrated Yulin's eyebrows turned into pieces of clear information that appeared in front of Yulin's eyes. This is really black technology. Yulin carefully studied the piece of information and his expression froze slightly. In admiration, he also looked at Homeros with a surprised look. Accept the side mission, Homeros's deal. Mission goal, complete Homeros's piece list. Current progress, 0/20. Task difficulty, S. Task time limit, 6 hours. Task reward, designated giant beast navigation pointer *2. Piece list. Yulin took a deep breath and said, "This is your real purpose." Homeros was silent. "Why?" Yulin asked again. "It's not Yurin's gossip. Rather, he really wanted to know the reason. The deeper you get into the game, the more you want to understand the story. It's just a deal." Hermelos smiled, with no joy or sorrow in his smile. "Okay." Yulin nodded. Since the other party didn't say anything, Yulin couldn't go into details. This mission is an S-level branch. And it seems that there is no limit to the number of people. Maybe you can share it with your friends. But Yulin had no such plans. According to his speculation, the reason why this mission is S-level is because of the difficulty of the game mechanics. To him. No wonder Homeros found him in this way. "There is one more question," Yulin said with bright eyes in the darkness. Homeros was one of the characters that Yulin did not dare to treat as an NPC in this game world, so he asked again, "Why 6 hours?" Snapped. Homeros seemed to have expected Yulin to ask this question. Shortly after the problem arose, Hermelos did not hide it and directly stated the reason. 6 hours later, before the sun rises, Pope Djagi Anthony will lead the Holy See army to the Kingdom of Two Lions. Yulin's pupils shrank. Really? In the Kingdom of Two Lions, there is also the presence of the Holy See. Wanted notices were posted on the door. If it was said that there was no small branch of the Holy See in the Kingdom of Two Lions, Yulin would be beaten to death for not believing it. Moreover, in the normal game process, the Holy See is a functional institution used by players to change jobs, so it is impossible. Even if the size of the small branch is not as large as that of Porto Izida, there will still be what should be there. Hey, wait a minute. Chapter of the Holy See? Maybe there are drops of the saint's blood hidden inside. Even if not, maybe there are a lot of valuable things. While analyzing the problem, a bold idea flashed through Yulin's mind. But he didn't have time to think too much. The situation is serious. 6 hours is enough. Then what will you do after 6 hours? This is my business. Homelos closed his eyes again. This is a deal. Oh, that's right, a deal. Yulin smiled kindly and backed away slowly. As he backed away, he said, "I have the final say on what means can be used to complete the transaction. If things get too big, I hope you won't regret it in the end." Homeros suddenly frowned. His eyes no longer fell on Yulin, who was gradually retreating into darkness. Instead, he raised his head and stared at the full moon. "Ah, today's moon is very noisy." He didn't seem to see Yulin escaping. Homelos continued to talk to himself. "I wonder if the felons in the prison have any thoughts of escaping. Master, can you enjoy drinking wine? Well, let's go take a look." He said he wanted to leave, but Hermelos made no move. I didn't see Yulin either. Yulin was stunned. Immediately he understood what Homelos meant. This country is really interesting. Homeros can be called the knight of the new era. Very pragmatic. Yulin dives into the darkness again. On the same spot, in the training ground, Hermelos' posture did not change. The two-handed sword, the bright crystal at the end of the hilt, flashed with light. A girl's voice, slightly confused, asked, "Can we trust him?" Homelos was silent for a moment and shook his head slightly. "This is a deal." "Girl." Shortly after Yilin left, Homeros walked slowly to the bright center of the courtyard. There are still many guards here, patrolling diligently. In the palace, the banquet has come to an end. The dignitaries and ministers of the kingdom, escorted by their own personal guards, returned home and did not stay in the royal city any longer in the second half. Those felons escaped. From now on, the whole city is under martial law and we will search out those wanted criminals again. Homeros quickly gave orders. After chasing for a long time during the day, several felons who were finally caught escaped again. This news spread once again throughout the Twin Lion Kingdom, centered on the inner city walled city, in a very short period of time. The whole city was shaken. The lights in the city were extinguished, and the citizens of the two Lion Kingdoms, who had gone to bed early, woke up one after another. On the street, the crystal lanterns on the roadside lit up again, and the whole city was like a city that never sleeps under the night sky, as bright as day. The heraldic flags of the country with two lions fluttered in the night wind. Click, click, click. The army swarmed out and once again launched a blanket search in the Twin Lion Kingdom. This time, many guards had gained experience, and the focus of the search fell on the city wall. Felons are very good at climbing over walls. This habitual thinking is deeply rooted in the minds of every guard who has participated in the hunt. Homeros also deployed a large number of troops near the military port. Many dignitaries and ministers who had been drinking and chatting in the city of the Two Lion King not long ago were so frightened that their heads were under the covers after hearing the news. The palace was surrounded by personal guards. At the same time, on the main street of Shuangshizhou, from time to time, there are strange shadows spinning, twisting, and swaying. Yilin took advantage of the darkness and quickly walked through various shadows. Is Homeros's purpose to make this matter bigger? Everyone knows. Yilin swiped her index finger down and opened the system panel. Reputation of the Two Lions Kingdom -100. Reputation of the Two Lions Kingdom -100. The prestige of the Kingdom of Two Lions continues to decline. Even though Yilin hadn't started doing anything, her reputation dropped even more outrageously than the stock market crash, plummeting. This is what is called wanting to inflict a crime, so there is no need to worry about it. Coercion, inducement, persuasion, it's all there. But why don't I hate this? Yilin felt puzzled. On the contrary, he felt that Hermelo's behavior was normal. Speaking of which, this boss really doesn't look like a competent NPC. While thinking about it, Yilin casually closed the panel and took out the communication crystal from the props. At the same time, in the royal city, in a heavily guarded prison, the jailer was still sleeping soundly. On the ceiling, messy footsteps could be heard from time to time. Click, click, click. It was like teams of knights dancing together on the ground above the prison. In the darkness, Li Erpang patted his bulging belly and ate a meal of private goods that he had saved for a while. He burped with satisfaction and said, "It feels like something happened up there." "Is it him?" Ningyu smiled. "It's him. Xiao Chuer is very sure." They are becoming more and more accustomed to the days when Yilin is not around. As an assassin, the protagonist often appears and disappears, isn't it appropriate? Ningyu and Xiao Chuer have always believed that the protagonist Yilin in this trial is the person who is riddled with luck in the trial. Whether it's good luck or bad luck, it can't be helped. If this is a story about abuse, the protagonist will definitely die heroically in the end, so by following the protagonist will definitely be able to absorb a lot of bad luck. And if this is a cool novel, there is nothing wrong with following the protagonist. After all, the protagonist in a cool novel always kills the villain in various cheating ways. No matter what happens, as apostles, Ningyu and Xiaochuer will not suffer any loss if they sneak around during the trial and take action based on the general trend. Li Erpang chuckled, squinted his eyes, and said very wretchedly, "What kind of skills do you have? Can you beat you or something? It's time to deal with it, right? There is such a big movement above, Fatty, after careful consideration and reasonable speculation, assuming evidence, now is the best time to escape." Ningyu and Xiaochuer did not refute. After all, now is indeed the best time to escape. And just when Ningyu was about to release his best innate skill, "I stand here and you hit me," he felt the communication crystal flash. "It's Yiren." Sure enough, it was him. Ningyu answered the call. The communication crystal was so dark that Ningyu didn't know where Yilin was hiding now. He couldn't even see the other person's face clearly. But Yilin's voice was transmitted word for word through the communication crystal. "The situation has changed. You must, absolutely, must not run around casually. Stay in the cell with peace of mind and don't move around. Understand?" Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 371. Understand. I understand your sister. The three heads that gathered together to watch the communication crystal bounced away at the same time when Yilin said those words. Can you believe what this guy says with punctuation? Although I think so in my heart. But no one said this. Li Erpang scratched his head. I feel, there's something fishy. Ningyu glanced at Li Erpang in the darkness, sighed softly, then slowly pressed his hand on the ground and decisively activated the skill. I'll believe it next time. Do. Is it dead now? Yilin put away the communication crystal in confusion. It seemed that after he said this, his teammates would run out of prison. After all, normally speaking, they may not believe it. Yilin simply said something ironic. Since Homeros is going to be in chaos, let's make it more thorough. Yilin's behavior is very mysterious. No one can discover Yilin's existence. No one knows assassination better than him. If there are no wanted criminals running around on the streets, no matter how honest the citizens are, it will be difficult to believe that there are really wanted criminals running around. Seeing is believing, right? Hermelos, you have to thank me. Yilin roughly guessed the actions of his teammates. As a guest of the Double Lion Kingdom, Blacksmith Ge Lang should be safe. In addition, Blacksmith Ge Lang is a sword master, so his strength should be extremely terrifying. Even if he is old, his level should be there and his attributes should not be too bad. As for the dog, don't worry about it. Yilin thought about it and counted the time, feeling very calm. He really had nothing to worry about. But what I have to admit is that if the worldview explained by Homeros is not half false, even if he can fly out of the sea of clouds with his mount, he will not be able to climb on the backs of other giant beasts in the vast sea of clouds. According to the normal game process, the player should be able to take the corresponding flight at Izada Port, go to other Titan beasts, and enter the more advanced leveling area. It stands to reason that ordinary players should not be able to, and do not need to, come into contact with the navigation pointer. Who the hell knows how to fly an airship? This is the key. But now this game has been broken by several players. Not only the reputation of the Twin Lion Kingdom, but also the reputation of the Holy See of Auranos has plummeted. It is estimated that if this continues, these players will become hostile forces to all NPCs in this game world. Time flies. Yilin felt that her memory was surprisingly good. In a short time, he memorized the Double Lion Country tourist map in his mind, as clear as a navigation map, and there was no need to take it out over and over to read. The streets were in chaos. Knights wearing heavy armor from the Double Lion Kingdom and ordinary citizens of the Double Lion Kingdom, old and weak, were all doing their duty in the streets, alleys, and city walls, searching for suspicious figures. Yulin easily passed through the encirclement net, followed the map in his memory, and came to the Two Lions branch of Aurano's Holy See. It's just a small church. It doesn't look like anything valuable. Yulin walked around the church several times and found nothing fishy, so she casually knocked down a bottle of intermediate crystal energy vial and slipped in. The interior decoration style of this Holy See branch is almost the same as that of the branch in Labutown. In the center of the church, in the most conspicuous position, stands an elegant and beautiful statue of the goddess. It was time to close the meeting. There was only one young nun inside, kneeling in front of the statue of the goddess, her body trembling slightly, her eyes closed tightly, and she was mumbling something. Yuren came a little closer, and the nun's lines were nothing special. It's nothing more than Auranos is above, please protect me from the gods, the devil must die and the like. Yulin was silent for a moment and quickly came behind the nun NPC. The question mark divine sword, following Yulin's will, was kneaded into a handy shape. The two translucent daggers, under the dim light of the crystal lamp, were dim but extremely sharp. Even Hermelos, who had a lot of titles, couldn't detect Yulin's stealth, and the ordinary-looking nun NPC in front of him was even more impossible. Two daggers, like horns, lay silently on both sides of the nun NPC's neck. Right now. The nun NPC said softly in a voice that sounded like she was talking in her sleep, "My dear Auranos, I hope my mother can recover as soon as possible." Yulin stopped moving. He went down without a knife. I don't know why, at this moment, the moonlight shines through the crystal window on the wall, and the colorful colors make the nun NPC in front of me, with her weak and slightly trembling body, look very much like a person. The reputation of the Holy See of Auranos is already hostile. In Yulin's eyes, the nun NPC in front of her was no different from the red-named monster in the wild. Sister Kathy. LV10. The kind that can be used with a knife. Forget it, I don't have much experience. Yulin thought to herself and put away the knife. As for the reason, whether it was due to lack of experience, only he himself could understand. The young nun did not know that she was almost kissed by death not long ago. She was still kneeling devoutly in front of the statue of the goddess to pray for her seriously ill mother. Yulin walked around and found nothing of value except the decorative crystal windows on the wall. The statue of the goddess, of course, cannot be taken away. There is no need for Yulin to bring a goddess statue in the inventory, in case her teammates discover it and misunderstand what to do. Before leaving the church, Yulin suddenly frowned, turned around, and stared directly at the statue of the goddess. After staring in silence for a few seconds, Yulin found nothing else, relaxed his brows, and left quietly. Laugh. At the same time. What the hell? 3 wanted criminals, Li Erpang, Ning Yu, and Xiao Chuer, just escaped from prison when they happened to run into a group of knights in fine clothing. The hardcover knight was originally just passing by. After all, Homeros also said when he issued the order that the wanted criminal had fled outside the royal city. They were ready to prepare and set off from the royal city to the central city to start a search. But this chance encounter. What a surprise! It was an accident for both the cavaliers and the warriors. So, after Li Erpang subconsciously yelled, the cavaliers who were 10 meters away suddenly turned their heads, strangely stopped their progress, and fell into an awkward silence. This? Could it be that the guard NPC is not intelligent enough to successfully compare the wanted poster with a real person? AI flaws? 2 innocent thoughts suddenly flashed through Li Erpang's mind. 10 seconds later. They're here. Get 'em. Quick. Go and report to the great knight Hermelos. No. Inform all brothers immediately. Kill. It was as if time that had stood still was spinning again. A whole team of heavily armored knights came to attack the 3 people who looked confused as soon as they opened the cell door. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer look solemn. It's too late to escape. I'll go first. Ningyu made a quick decision. He suddenly regretted not listening to the protagonist's kind words. This is indeed a situation that has changed. The whole city is wanted. It would be better to stay in the cell safely than to escape. Ningyu didn't hesitate. Before the night came over, he pressed hard on the ground. The flat floor suddenly floated, squirmed, and changed shape after Ningyu activated his skills. A perfectly flat piece of land turned into a small patch of mud in an instant. The knights running at the front had no time to brake. Their feet were stuck in the mud at the same time, sinking slowly and unable to move. A trace of cold sweat broke out on Ning's right forehead, and he quickly drank a bottle of crystal energy medicine. In other trials, his skills consume a lot of money and cannot be used continuously, but in this game world trial, Hui Lan said, he uses the skills unscrupulously and is very comfortable. But the coverage of ninja skills is still a little small after all. This I'm standing here, you come and hit me hit, and only 9 knight NPCs were trapped. The remaining knights were well trained. When the companions in front fell into the mud, those following behind also reacted quickly and took a detour. Then he went to kill the 3 wanted criminals again. My skills have CDs. At this moment, Ningyu didn't want to be held back by the cheating turn system when escaping. Even if it exposed the flaws of his skills, he would not hesitate to remind him loudly. I come. Xiao Chuer, who had never used her innate skills all the way, did not dare to hide her strength at the critical moment. She suddenly put away her long whip and smiled charmingly at the murderous knights from a distance. I'm here, good brothers Bo. Li Erpang, good brother. Ningyu, his. Xiao Chuer put her index and middle fingers together, placed a spot on her plump lips, and quickly blew a kiss to the knights who were coming around. A pink heart-shaped light wave appeared on Xiao Chuer's fingertips, then quickly enlarged in front of her and rippled towards the knights. Among the dozen knights, less than half stopped in their tracks at the moment they were hit, and looked at Xiao Chuer with hot eyes. Walk. Ningyu trapped part of them, and Xiao Chuer captivated another part. The neat team of knights was broken up into a messy formation in a very short period of time. Ningyu, Li Erpang, and Xiao Chuer were all not newbies. They each found a gap in the queue and broke out. After so many days of experience in spawning monsters, they also have some ideas on how to avoid entering turn-based battles. Go, go, go. The 3 of them rushed out of the royal city in a hurry. But before they could be happy, the scene in front of them instantly made Ningyu and the others break into cold sweats. The whole city is brightly lit and extremely prosperous. But that's not the point. In the city streets, on the city walls, under the city walls, everywhere you look, there are red names. It's a red name. The whole city is full of red names. Li Erpang's fingers trembled slightly, and he subconsciously opened the system to take a look. Because he was running in a hurry just now, he didn't pay attention to the system prompts that floated by from time to time. Unknowingly, the 2 Lion Kingdom reputation column changed from cold to hostile. How many people are coming to the Kingdom of 2 Lions? 10, 100,000. In other words, what they are about to face are 100,000 red monsters. This is not a peerless lawn mowing game, where one ride can equal 1,000. Li Erpang almost cried, holy shit. Did I dig up your ancestral graves or something? How did I provoke you? Do you need to serve me with a red name package? Why don't I surrender again now? It's too late. Wrong. Suddenly, Xiao Chuer looked strange, and the corners of her mouth and eyes twitched at the same time. We might have really provoked you, please read the system prompts. Congratulations. Your team successfully killed the Secretary of Finance of the 2 Lion Kingdoms. The reputation value of the Twin Lion Kingdom is -400. Please keep up the good work. Congratulations. Your team successfully kills the two lions' home secretary. The reputation of the Twin Lion Kingdom -500. Please keep up the good work. Congratulations. Your team successfully killed. Li Erpang instantly rolled his eyes, his round body crumbling. It's a pity that the slits in Li Erpang's eyes are too narrow, which affects his vision. No one saw this white eye.